And instead of a Diet Coke served in a garbage can, you could get like a bottle of wine. And like they had all of these ideas. And then the kicker is, and what if the cost of the ticket didn't have to go up more than $2 or $3? Have anyone been to a theater like that? Just like, all of you have, because movie ticket sales have never been higher, and movie theaters have never been more profitable. And so this is just one example of this idea on how you have stale industries that then get rethought and they get changed. And it's all starting to speed up in a really, really, really palpable way. And every industry is going through this. So when you hear the word disruptor, what I want you to, right now that's like a buzzword for everything. Here's what you need to think of. Does this company materially change the way that my consumer will experience residential real estate? And if the answer is yes, then they have a chance of being disruptive. So now let's pose the question differently. What are you doing right now that's disruptive? Maybe that was rhetorical. Let's change the rules in the room for a second. So let's do this. So let's just get the rules in the room down. So I say, we have two choices. We can either just go to the bathroom when we need to and self-regulate, or we can take a break in the middle and all bum rush it. Do you guys want to go with number one? So we agree on that. So everyone will just go when they want. And then I think you should be able to take phone calls as they come in today. Like if you have one where you can make money, I think this isn't sales prevention. Do you guys want to be able to take phone calls? And just go? So if I see you get up and run out, I'm just going to pretend you're making money, as opposed to you're bored or offended. So now we have that down. And then the third one, let's do this. Let's just go straight through today, but let's make this more of a dialogue than a monologue. So if I said something like, what are you doing that's disruptive, and you actually had an answer, you would say, here's what I'm doing. Is that fair? Yeah. Cool. So now we have to completely change the way we're thinking about real estate. You're all right now in this kind of like linear progression, and everyone knows where they are in the universe. We have to stop that. So we have to completely change your mindset. For the next 2 hours, let's just be completely untethered to all of the things that we think and we know to be true today. Is that fair? Great book on that. It's called The Untethered Soul. So fine. So we're going to be completely untethered as we move forward. Let's get into this idea. Everybody close your eyes. No one's too cool for school. I'm going to close mine while I walk. And now I want you to picture a millionaire. Get it in your head. Maybe him or her, you know who this person is. You know what they're wearing. You know when the last time you saw them was. Get this person square. Everyone got it? Cool. Open your eyes. How many of you are picturing yourself? 7. Cool. Okay, so we're not untethered yet. We're all still holding on to this, right? And so whenever I think about becoming untethered, I always try to picture something that like that. Like I do an exercise like that. Let me tell you a story that may help, right? And it was a story that I heard at MegaCamp, and it was about spider monkeys. Did anyone hear the story? The spider monkey story, I won't do a long version of it because you heard it, but I'm going to give you a short version of it. Spider monkeys were all the rage, right? And just like America does with everything, we decided we were going to take them all and then sell them. That's our thing. And so what happened was a bunch of American companies went to Brazil to try to capture the spider monkeys. But the problem is they're really hard to get. They're adorable but fast, right? And so they tried to throw nets on them and they couldn't catch them because they kept outrunning the nets. And then they tried to use tranquilizer darts, but that didn't work because there's so many leaves. And then they tried to send people up on harnesses, and none of that worked because that last one's just a bad idea in general. And so they couldn't capture them. And so all these American companies started going out of business. And then one of the local guides said, you Americans are so silly. There's such an easy way to catch spider monkeys, but you never ask for help. And they were like, okay, how do you do it? He said, it's easy. All you do, and this is true, by the way, because I actually researched it after I heard this guy say it, but you go and you take a Coke bottle and you put a nut at the bottom of it. Okay? And spider monkeys have amazing vision. And they see the nut from all the way up in the tree, and then they come all the way down and they put their little spider monkey hand in to get it. And the Coke bottles there are squat, by the way. And they grab it. And now they have a fist. And then they go to pull their hand out and it won't come out. And you would think that they would just drop the nut. But you know, anything could be happening next to it. There could be a 7-course spider monkey meal next to them, they won't drop the nut. There could be 13 spider monkeys playing 13 spider monkey games next to them, and they won't drop the nut. The Giselle of spider monkeys could walk by and they won't drop the nut. They just won't drop the nut. They hold it, and they won't let go. And then finally, someone comes over and just picks them up and puts them in the box. Yeah, that's the sad part. But anyway, so that's how you catch spider monkeys. And so whenever I think about releasing whatever I'm tethered to, I ask myself, what nut am I holding on to? That should just make you laugh because it sounds funny. But I think you understand where I'm going with this. There's something that you're holding on to. Probably a bunch of things. And there's a bunch of different names. At Keller Williams, we would call them limiting beliefs. Scientology would have a different name. But the truth is, at some point, you're holding on to these preconceived notions. And you are holding on to preconceived notions right now about the consumer and about the way that the real estate agent relates to them. And here's the danger with that. They're not. In their mind, to be candid with you, all they care about is their own needs. Just like you and the life that you're living. And so when we lose sight about what the consumer actually wants, it becomes really difficult to give them any sort of experience that they would be fond of with us. So, let's do this. How many of you in the room truly believe that you have to lead generate every day if you want to make it in real estate? Cool. Let's start by saying that I don't. It gets weird. I'm not sure that lead generating is the answer. If it was, by the way, everyone that just raised your hand, that's been the mantra forever. Like we've been talking about everyone needs to lead generate. Yet 73% of all real estate agents are out of the industry within 10 years of being licensed. That's a big number. That's like everyone except, it's like from here over. You'd all be out of the business in the next decade. Yeah, okay, let's pretend we didn't want that, right? And here's the deal. I would get that from a competition standpoint, but the truth is, I don't want all real estate agents to go out of business. I just want all of them that aren't at Keller Williams. My goal in life is to give you an unfair advantage in the marketplace if you decide to carry the red and white banner that I'm carrying. So when we think about it, it's really sad to me that 73% of our real estate brothers and sisters end up out of the business. And so I'm forced, and I always ask the question, well, why? Like, what's the reason for that? And I think it's twofold. Number one, I think people get into the industry and have no idea what that actually means. And number two, I think that they don't fundamentally enjoy the activities that they would need to do in their mind to be successful. Meaning you think you have to lead generate every day. What do you do to lead generate? Just shout them out. What do you got?
Cold call.
Okay, so you're using the phone. What else you got?
Open houses.
Door knocking, I heard, and open houses. What else you got? Social media. What else?
Client events.
Client events.
Beer.
SOI. I think of Popeyes is like a client event. You're just doing it with one person instead of that. What else you got? Business to business. What else you got?
Circle prospecting.
That's using the phone. What else you got? Direct mail. That's farming.
Events.
I'm sorry. Email. I think you could use that in all of these. Do you mean it as a standalone thing? I kind of think of that as
Like the drip system.
cool. To your sphere of influence, or just to strangers? Cool. I think that's SOI and farming. By the way, no, we're ideating together today, so this should feel uncomfortable. What is that? Digital ads. Let's call all of that pay-per-click. You're buying internet leads, you're paying per click in one form or another from somebody. I gotta ask, the people that are filming me, are we going out to the universe on Facebook Live, or is this just for you? We're going out to the universe, or just for you? Just for you. Okay, cool. And the only reason I've asked is because if I talk about the consumer and say, like, they're idiots, I wouldn't want that. I would never say that, but just in case. What else we got? Anything else? Agent referrals. Referrals. Anything else?
Public events, such as buyer and seller seminars.
I think that's a client event because they're just future clients.
Like volunteering events?
Volunteering events. I think that's client events. Say different.
Oh, okay.
What? That's definitely a client event. Okay, that's it? Are we good? Anyone else?
Did we do social media?
Yeah, social media. Well, we didn't say like billboards, and we didn't say radio, and we didn't say TV, but I get that because I was on TV for 3 years and I didn't make any money. So I hear you. So this is the list. Cool. There's 10 things on this list. Can you see this good? Okay, there's 10 things on this list. What is that number? 18. Yes, you read the number. What does it signify? Anybody? Could be. Anyone else?
The amount of ways they are the lead generator.
No idea. It could be. It's the year that the first association of realtors was founded. So we all came into existence in 1891. It was put together in a rural community because there was so much distance between the parcels that people needed to get together and have a place to talk about what was for sale. Not much different than it is today. Instead of using the MLS, they just did it in person. The MLS is simply a tactic that they did poorly in 1891. Fair? Cool. So here's my question. Since 1891, us as an industry and as a collective have managed to come up with those 10 things. How do we feel about that? It's awful? Yeah. Well, I'm not here to make the judgments. Here's the thing about insights. I don't give insights. Gary Keller told me this once. He said, and he told me this because I was really scared about being a dad, which I really struggled with. I love my son to death, but I'm a much better business person than I am a father or a husband. I'm really trying to. And what he said was, he goes, you don't have to worry, man. And I go, yeah, but I am. Like, I want to teach him all this stuff, and I don't know how, and I don't know when to start. And every time I talk to him, he cries. He was one. It seems like it's all about him, and I don't know, and I get uncomfortable, and he's not moving at my pace, and I'm really, I want to talk, but he can't talk back, and I'm having a hard time just sitting there and playing with puzzles and stuff. Like, it's just really hard. And to make matters worse, I have an amazing wife who didn't look like it was hard for her. And she was loving it, right? And he said, relax. He said, you're not there to give him insights. He said, the way that he thinks about it, because we're spiritual beings having a physical experience right now, that all of the insights that you'll ever need are already there. And I said, well, that's cool, but every time I go hear you speak, I leave and I've heard something different or something new. He said, I'm just a tour guide. If it was the other way around, they'd be called outsides, but they're not. I'm just a tour guide, and you're going to find new things that you already have within you every time you speak. And he said, that's how you should think about it with your son, and that may help you alleviate some of your stress. And since then, I have felt great. I've taken no effort. And so, I think about this, and I'm forced to ask a question, which is it possible that there's a million other ways to do this, and for whatever the reason, you just haven't pulled them out of yourselves? Or is this it? If I go with this is it, then I get really scared, because I would have no idea how to influence the 73% that's going to leave real estate to stay. Because here's my operating thesis. That people leave real estate because they don't like their life once they're realtors. And I think that manifests itself in a bunch of different ways. They don't make enough money, so their life sucks during it. I'm not saying that money solves your problems. I am saying if you can't pay your bills next month, you're not going to like my culture. I think money is a tool that makes everything easier except divorce. Everything else is easier. And I think they don't like their life, meaning that they don't like their activity. Who in here likes to cold call? Cool. Who in here thinks that talking to strangers is a key part of lead generation? Cool. So anybody, though, who gets into this industry and then forces themselves to do the activities they don't like every day, and they believe that's how they're successful, that sounds terrible to me. Like, waking up every day to do something you don't like is actually called prison. Like, that's literally the term for it. You wake up in this place, you didn't want to be there, you have no choice but to do what you're being told. That sucks. Why would anyone want to own that business? How many of you is it just you against the world? You're a sole practitioner real estate agent. Cool. And you're the one making all the rules for yourself. So you wake up every day and think, how do I force myself to do something I hate? What kind of focusing question is that? It's so dumb. Like, but if you ask the wrong question, you always get the wrong answer. And so when you ask yourself, how do I force myself to do this? You come up with all these mechanisms. Like, I need an accountability partner. Think about the worst habit you have. Don't make eye contact with me. Think about your bad habits for a second. The bad ones. And now ask yourself, does it take a lot of discipline to force yourself to do them? Quite the opposite, right? You'd have to work hard not to do them. No one needs an accountability for smoking. You just have a cigarette when you're drinking. Like, it just naturally happens. I don't know how it happens, but it does. You only need accountability partners for things that you're having a hard time doing. And so what if we took a completely different approach to this? What if we said that anytime I need further accountability, I should stop doing that task and get the same result doing one that I actually enjoy? Now, I'm not saying that's the only right answer. I just want to force a different conversation. So if lead generation is the part of the day that you dislike the most, raise your hand. And be honest, we're in the trust tree. Cool. It's about 60% of the room. And if following up with people long term is the activity that you dislike the second most, raise your hand. Cool. You're either struggling with lead gen or follow-up. It's the only two things that matter in real estate too, by the way, which makes this really sad. Because you only get to choose three things in all of real estate. The first one is who you follow up with. The second one is by what frequency, and the third one is with what intensity. That's it. Everything else is decided by somebody else. Who the buyer and sellers are is decided by them. When they buy and sell is defined by them. Who they choose to do it with on your side is defined by them. How much their price point is theirs or a bank's. How much they're willing to pay you is theirs. Whether or not they can get funding is the bank's. Whether it closes or not is some title company or escrow company. How the home checks out is up to some home inspector with no training. Like, at the end of the day, the reality of it is the only three things you're in charge of is who you follow up with and by what frequency and what intensity. And I would tell you that who I follow up with is tied directly to how I'm generating those leads. That's the who. And so what ends up happening, more often than not, in life anyway, Brian Hubernick taught me this. He's a really smart guy. And he's got two beautiful little girls. And he has this triangle that's on the fridge in his house. It's a little weird because he draws the same one for me all the time. And I know he's using it to train a 6-year-old and me. But that's the truth. And down here, he has the word why. And over here, he has the word how, and then really close to that is the word what. And up here is who. Is any of that spelled right? Is that spelled right? I can't spell or read or write. So now we're all friends again. So this is really interesting. So when his little girls do something like knuckleheadish, like one of them hits the other one, he was saying, "Why did you hit your sister?" And what does she say? "I don't know, she hit me first." Something that absolutely brings no value to anyone's life. It's not like there's any lesson to be learned there. And so then he started saying, "How could you have handled that better with your sister?" And then he started saying, "What could you have done differently such that this wouldn't have happened in the first place?" And then finally he started saying, "Who do you need to talk to have better strategies? Who would you need to become such that she wouldn't have hit you? Who do your mom and I have to become such that you would actually understand we're a family?" He's got all of these who questions. And anytime you say, "I don't know," he says, "But if you did know, what would the answer be?" It's unfortunate. It's really frustrating. It's enough to make you crazy. If you think about, most of you, when you're thinking about what you're going to do for the next quarter, you spend a lot of time in why you're going to do it, or how you're going to do it, or what you're going to do, and very little time thinking about who you're going to do it with. So let's change this completely. Most people think in terms of tactics. The tactics is how you're going to do it. What I want you to think about right now is, who do you really want to be in business with? Just write down, what type of clients do you really want? Here are some choices for you. Absolute strangers. Everyone that raised their hand and said that they need to cold call every day, what you've said is, "I'm choosing as my strategy to be in business with people I don't know." I'm not saying that's a bad strategy. I'm saying that you made a conscious decision to choose it. But I don't know if you really thought it through. The other one might be, "I choose to only do business with people that know me and like me." That would be called a referral-based business. You could have that. All I'm saying is, if you didn't make a conscious choice, then what's happened is you're using a bunch of tactics from both sides, and none of them are actually going to work. Because what you need is one strategy and then a bunch of tactics that layer up to it. And once we have that, you have a workable 3-year plan. When I say 3 years, I don't actually mean calendar years. What I mean is, anything that you want to accomplish is going to take some period of time. Right now, you think about it annually, right? Who's working on their 2020 goals? Stop thinking about things in terms of annual. The only reason we have annual is so that somebody can collect taxes. It's the only reason. The only reason you think of annual goals is because everything else is annual, because that's how we pay taxes in this country. But does it really matter? If you set your goal and it took you 19 months to hit it instead of 12, would you really be upset? That only if you made your goal about how much money you needed to make this year, then you'd be upset. But that's probably not what the goal should be. The goal should be, how do I love my life and love my lifestyle? How much money you make is simply one piece of that. You guys, here's the problem. I mean, said differently, you're thinking about your life right now, if you're thinking like most real estate agents do, the same way that most team leaders think about recruiting, right? Which is, I have this funnel, and up here things happen, and then everybody ends up. So I'm going to meet agents this way, I'm going to meet them 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 this way. Then they're all going to end up in my funnel at different periods of time. They're going to have some sort of experience. Then I'm going to assign a certain number of them who are going to fall out here. This is my recruiting funnel. Does this make sense? You also, some agents think about their consumers this way. What's the sales funnel that we're going to run right now? Well, tell me all the different steps as we go. You're thinking about money this way. You're saying I have to do all these activities, which then lead to this, which then spit out money, and then down here is how I get to live my life. Is that fair? What if this wasn't the case? What if funnels were a 1950s approach to thinking about life? And in reality, what we really should be thinking about is infinity cycles. And an infinity cycle is one that doesn't have a beginning and it doesn't have an ending. It's actually fairly organic. What we know is that different things are going to happen within it. But once one of those things happen, it doesn't happen independently of each other. Meaning no matter how somebody gets into your funnel, they all get the same experience. And what I'm suggesting to you is no matter where in this cycle you are in planning your business or where the consumer gets in, maybe this is the day that they come to you off a sign call and they're a buyer. That's fantastic. You wouldn't just treat them like a buyer. You'd start setting them up for the entire infinity cycle, which is the one they're going to be a buyer, and then they're actually going to own it. You got to figure out how to stay in their life during that time. Then at some point they're going to be a seller, then they're going to be a buyer again, and this might be when their adult kid buys a house, and this might be when they help an elderly parent, and you think of them as individual occurrences. So-and-so sent me a referral. I would tell you that every single client over here should have a place where they send you a referral, but that's not an experience, it's just part of the overall infinity. Does this make sense? This should mean that no matter how somebody gets into your life, there's a cohesive plan, not to get them into a funnel, but to do all of these different things with them along the way. This is an organic way of thinking about being in relationship with people. And as a matter of fact, if you thought about the relationships that you have right now with your significant others, I would tell you, unless you're part of the 54% that gets divorced, but I would tell you, you're living an infinity cycle with them right now. And there's good days, and there's bad days, and there's vacations, and there's heartache, and there's children, and there's this. They're not isolated incidents. They're not even a staircase, because it's not like they go in some sort of lateral, it's not like this in life. Your relationships are not like this. My therapist told me that. That's not how they are. They're like this in life. These are big 30,000 feet ideas. I promise you we're going to bring this down to actual step by step as we go. But I want to get you out of what you're thinking right now, which is that real estate is some sort of linear thing. Which is I meet a buyer, I then give them a buyer consultation, we then get them pre-approved by a lender, I then show them houses, they then pick the wrong one, we then go under contract, it falls apart in inspection period. That's not what it is. It's this magical cycle, and as everybody's worlds are getting bigger, there's new pieces being added to the affinity. Meaning, how many of your customers right now have children? Okay, most of yours. How many of you have clients that have adult children? Those adult children, by the way, are about to get taken from you. Right now, they're in those parents' infinity loops, but they're having their own infinity loop. And you're going to lose the next generation of buyers and sellers because one of their idiot friends is about to get a license. It's just what's going to happen. Someone like me, they're going to drop out of high school like I did, they're going to take a 4-day course, get a C- on a licensing exam, and make $1 million a year. That's my story. One of their idiot friends is about to go down the exact same path. And right now, those people are yours, and you're about to lose them because you think of them as separate somehow. Does this make sense? So we gotta fix this. We have to start thinking of this as a holistic infinity experience. And so then this really changes it, because now all of a sudden, lead generation isn't where the experience begins, like it would in a funnel. It's just another part of the experience for everybody. They're not future transactions. They're people. You see, the tech industry right now is set up such that they think of each person as a unique set of eyeballs. And then they think of them as a cohesive transaction. And then they ask, how many different things can I sell? What they fail to realize is that residential real estate is a humanistic experience. Homes are the backdrop of people's lives. This isn't a commodity, no matter how badly Wall Street wants to try to make it one. That's why for the last 30 years of disruptors, you people are still on top of the food chain. Because you have this skill that no algorithm has and no tech company has. And it's called likability, because the universal truth, and write it down, people do business with people they like. Period. You can dress it up 18 different ways. You can talk about the value of the zest in it. We can do all this bullshit. But people do business with people they like. And so the only way to stay in emotional proximity with people is to be more human more often. The technology is supposed to force you and enable you to be more human more often with more people. Like, the only reason to have an app that's really cool is so that you can magnify the number of people who you're having an emotional experience with. Ask yourself this: when you go out of town, when you travel, do you guys use restaurant reviews when you're in a new place?
Yeah.
Cool, me too. Now think about your favorite restaurant here where you live. Do you ever check the reviews when you're on the way there? Why not? You're in an emotional relationship with the restaurant. It wouldn't matter what 300 other people thought of the restaurant, because you are in an emotional relationship with it. So when people rush to Zillow to get reviews about realtors, what is that saying about realtors? Those are people who are not in an emotional relationship with a real estate agent. They're the ones who are feeling like you do when you go out of town and you don't know anything. And that's your fault. Any real estate agent in this community is guilty and culpable when any citizen who lives in this community goes to Zillow to read reviews to find a realtor. It is your failure. Now that feels shitty. Yeah, I get it. It's kind of like how I felt when I told I was coming to California. I haven't seen a palm tree since I got here. I don't know what kind of town you're running. You haven't seen a surfer or a beach. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't. It feels bad. How can that be the case when there's more realtors now than ever before in history? Like, there's 1.9 million of us. And more people are going to Zillow and Redfin and you name it to get news about real estate and to get reviews about realtors. And it's because we're not in communication or emotional proximity with enough people. You dress it up any way you want. Other than that, all we're going to talk about for the next 10 years are different tactics to get back into a relationship. Like, spoiler alert, you just can't do paperwork as well as artificial intelligence can. You just can't. You can't make flyers as well by hand as designs in our system can do it. No matter how many crayons you have. You just can't. Just like you couldn't wash clothing at the same pace a washing machine can. Anyone in this room who has made the decision to go to the stream and beat your clothes clean, I just want you to know you're behind. Because no matter how many hours you spent there, you would never clean as many clothes as the washer can. So if you're going to hang the hat on anything that AI can do better, all you're doing is setting an expiring business model. You're losing so slowly you think you're winning. You're literally just waiting to become irrelevant. Now, depending on where you are in your career, and I'm serious about this, that might not be a bad idea. This is to say that it's not like you're going to become completely irrelevant in the next 3 years. You're not. I think it's going to be a cycle. And so if you look up and you only have a 4 or 5 year time horizon left on your real estate business, not doing anything and simply slashing your expenses and collecting as much revenue as you can until your business gets extinguished is a very valid strategy. And if that's the case, then you should really just come to that conclusion so that you don't feel less than every day. And you should be fine saying that. This is all about choice. Everybody should get to make a choice, but you should all know what you're playing for if you make it. Now, if you are in the other cohort, which is you want to actually be in business for more than 4 or 5 years, or you want to have something to sell at the end of it, then you're going to have to make some changes because the world is changing around you. Period. End of story. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Cool. So, now, let's go back to this whole thing where everyone in this room thinks you have to regenerate every day. we've done this math before, but let's just do it again for fun. Take out your cell phones and open up your contacts. This is an exercise that I've been doing now for 4 years. And it doesn't change. As a matter of fact, in 2041, when MREA 2 comes out, this is going to be it. Okay, everyone got? If you scroll down to the bottom of your contacts, you're going to get a number. That's the total number of people in your contacts. What do you got? 939. Anyone at this table? 1,700 is a lot. Anyone over here?
826.
826. 1,054. Cool. What do you got? 3372.
There's a number symbol at the bottom.
Yeah, you got a lot of people in there. You got like drunk limo driver, family reunion, 98. Okay. 6,000. 6,000. Okay, raise your hand if you have 1,000 or more. Keep your hand up. Look around this room for a second. That's the vast majority. 1,500? 2,000? And then the outliers. What do you got, dude?
3,040.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So let's just say, just from that really lame look, that the average was about 1,500. So now open up your calculator app.
2,400.
And I want you to take 1,500 and I want you to multiply it by 6.23%. 6.23%. What do you get? 93.45. We're going to round it to 94. Now, how much money do you make when you sell a house here? Is it 10 grand? Awesome. I did this in I did this in Malibu the other day, and someone goes, 91,000. I was like, you're an asshole. I actually work for a living. Okay, so 94 times 10,000 is, oh, realtor math. $940,000. So here's what I know. I know that the percentage of people in your phone that are going to have a commission event over the next 12 months is 6.23%. That's the average. That's the number that's going to be in MREA 2. That's it. Because here's what we found out, and this is going to blow your mind. It turns out real estate agents, almost everyone in their phone actually lives in a house. I know. It blows me away. I mean, everyone other than the homeless fits into this thing. We're not going to talk ill about the homeless. They're great people also. But so, 900, we just can't make any money with them. $940,000. And now this room, some of you black hats are thinking, yeah, but it's not really an accurate number because most of those people on my phone, like of my 6,000, don't live in my neighborhood or in my city. So I can't represent them anyway. Yes, and that's what a referral fee is. But you're in literally the only financially regulated industry that allows you to collect 25 to 40% of a transaction for adding no value. I can't even believe that's allowed. And it's across state lines. Lawyers can't do that. Financial advisors can't do that. No one can do that. You're not a local realtor in this town. You are a national real estate agent. Get it in your head, write it down, start thinking about it differently. It doesn't matter how many listings you take within 3 miles of your office. It matters how many people's lives you impact in real estate next year. Total. Especially with an average sales price or an average commission of 10 grand. You send one deal to Beverly Hills and someone buys some shitty starter home with a carport, you might make more than 10 grand in the referral fee. If you're doing your 2020 goals and you don't have a column for incoming referral fee, add it immediately. You need, that's totally. By the way, the referral fee is no added time, no added risk. You never have to go on an appointment. You just sit back and collect mailbox money. It's the gift of the residential realtor. There's no expenses with incoming referral fees. It's just mailbox money. You know how many rental properties you'd have to own to make that kind of mailbox money every month? And now think about the people in your phone. Write down right now what percentage of your phone do you think is outside of your service area? What percentage? Take a guess. 60, 90, depending on where you are. It's going to be different for everybody. But if you've been limiting yourself to thinking that the 80% of people left is your customer base, wake up. That makes no sense. That is so self-limiting. Zillow doesn't feel that way. You ever go to Zillow and it says outside of the IDX territory? No, because you're playing in a different game. When I got in 20 years ago, that was a real thing. You were limited by geographic boundaries based on your MLS. Keller Williams, you're not. Your neighborhood section of your monthly neighborhood nurture and the information that you can send is neighborhoods everywhere because you are not the realtor local. You are the real estate expert nationally from now on. And by the way, soon it'll be the world. Because think about your people for a second. Think about what do you really know about the people on your phone right now? Can you tell me about their families? How many of the people on your phone can you tell me about their family? How many kids they have, how old those kids are, whether they're screw-ups or not, who's going to college, where they're going, how many? Keep a running total in your head. Now, how many of those people can you tell me about their occupation? Where do these people work? And by the way, where are they in their work life? Are they heading towards retirement? Or are they heading towards relocation? Are they on the way up in the company? Are they on the way down in the company? Where are they in occupation? How about recreation? Where do these people vacation? I mean, hell, they go to the same place every year. Do you know where they're going? What about their dreams? Where do they want to retire? Everyone has a physical location. They want to work out their whole life and then retire. Where are they going? That's called FOR: family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. What percentage of your phone can you tell me those things about for each person? Let me change it. How many people do you think you could do that for? You know their family, you know their occupation, you know their recreation, and you know their dreams. How many people? The math says about 80. That you can actually tell me those 4 things about 80 people. Now juxtapose that to the average that you guys have of 1,500. You got 6,000 people on your phone. How many of them do you know? If all you can tell me is their name, their email address, maybe how many bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, they're not your people. I can buy all that shit from Google right now for $3 a person. They're not yours at that point. That's the problem. They're orphans. Like we used to call, if you sold a house, whoever was represented by the other agent was an orphan. And so we started marketing to that person too in the hopes they would join our network. That's how we used to define orphans. What if it was even worse than that, guys? What if the real orphans were the ones that are sitting in your phone right now? I say orphans because they're not really in emotional relationships with you. If they were, you would know all those things. Think about the people that you know care about you right now. Could they answer those questions about you? You'd like to think so. Let me just tell you, spoiler alert, if they can't, they don't really care. So now we think, well, if there's only 80 people in my phone that I actually know family, occupation, recreation, and dreams for, and I've been waking up every day trying to meet strangers, what am I doing? How can you step over a quarter to pick up a penny? You have all the people, depending on how much money you want to make, right now in your phones. And here's the thing, they don't dislike you. That's the thing. The second group, I said the first group, they say they're not my market. The second group says, I got like ex-girlfriend in there, bro. I got an ex-boy, like, I can't call them. Like, I'm embarrassed. Whatever it is. Here's the thing, unless you are the responsible for making this ex homeless today, you can call them. There's still going to be a commission to them. It's okay. Nobody cares. Like, if you're carrying a grudge, please just start dropping those. That's like drinking poison and hoping everyone else gets sick. It's just not going to happen. Nobody cares anymore. So just move past that, and now your entire phone book opens up. You realize that any other realtor would pay up to $100 for anyone in your current cell phone, and we would call that a lead. So now, take the total number of people in your phone, and let's do the math again. We'll use the average of 1,500. Someone help me with this. What's 1,500 times 64? 96,000. The average cost per lead right now from Zillow is $64. Zillow sold you guys 138 million leads last year. But here's the thing, you can't tell me that they were now business opportunities because there was only 5.7 million people that bought houses. And of that, 41% of them were from by referral. Which means that of 138 million, about 2 million of them actually did business, and that's not to say they did business with the person that bought their name. How many of your clients go to Zillow but still do business with you? Right, which means 138 million leads probably led to less than 1 million sales. which means that everyone in your phone right now is worth $64 to somebody, which means that you're carrying a collective business asset right now of 96 grand in your pocket. Who in the room, show of hands, has another 96,000 that they can invest tomorrow? Cool. Then we should probably pay attention to this one. And that's the problem. You don't think of it as a business asset. You don't think of the names in there as an asset. But Gary Keller would tell you that all a business is a data bank of people. That's it. The only difference becomes whether that data bank is alive with passion for you or completely dead to you. And the majority of yours are dead. You know this to be true. You know it doesn't have anything to do with like being the neighborhood expert. If it did, there would be no expansion teams. How can you look at that? Right? Do you really think that Ben Kinney is the neighborhood expert in Austin, Texas? Anybody want to make that argument? Yet he's the #1 team in the Southwest Market Center. Well, so it can't be because he knows anything about Austin. He doesn't. I know this. It's because he really understands that the business is the database, and the database is made up of people, and my relationship with those people is what defines my financial opportunity, period. Now, I'm beating this to a dead horse because if you don't get this concept, then it doesn't matter what tactics we use. If you say, I want to get better at open houses, and I rattle off to you how to do a better 7th level one, which I'm more than happy to do later today, you're no closer to understanding the macro. Which is, it doesn't matter what tactics you use if you're not getting more likable more often with more people, and if you're not building emotional proximity with the people you have. That's the end of it. That's why, by the way, there's top agents in your office. You know what the same thing with top agents is no matter where they are? Number one, they have work velocity. They actually work. I know, shocking. Number two, they have likability. There's something about them. That might not mean you like them, but their clients definitely do. We all know that one agent who's the biggest ass in the world, but the clients love him. We all know that, but we don't have to name him. He's in Gary's top 100. All right, so we all know that, right? Some of those people left our company to go to other. Anyway, okay, so we all know those people. And then the third one is they're educationally based, meaning that they're willing to learn something new. If you're not checking the box on those three things, then you have a real problem. So now, some new questions. You ready? What are you doing right now that makes you more likable to your end user? That's question one. Question two. If you stopped doing whatever you think this thing is, how many people would call you and complain? How many of them would call and say, I'm not getting the just listed cards anymore, Jane? Just an example. Here's the third question. How many of them would show up at your office to demand you start doing it again? Now, if the answer to all of them is nothing, don't worry, I agree. There's very little that I'm doing that anyone would care about. But there's a few things, and what I'm noticing as I'm talking to more and more agents is the ones that can actually answer those questions are the ones that have awesome businesses. Does anyone here do the pie giveaway? Okay, cool. So there's a couple different ways to do the pie giveaway. And where you give away a pie, I really like the pie giveaway, right? Once a year we're going to give you a pie. We do the Costco ones because they're full of chemicals, so they last long. Who in here is giving away a Costco pie? Anybody? Cool. And I want to just ask a few questions about it. I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong, but if the number one problem that you have in the pie giveaway is we can't get them to come pick up the pies. And so you think of all these creative ways to, well, we got to get them to opt in, so we'll send them text messages and we'll do it on Facebook. And then finally you get to, we'll just deliver the pies. If you're at the point where you're driving to people's house to give them a pie, spoiler alert, they don't give a shit about it. They don't care. Because anyone can go to Costco. And for $4.99 you can get the chemical pie. And so they don't see value in it. They don't like you anymore because you delivered that. It's not like you're like, oh my gosh, I really like Jason because of the pie that we got. That was in his trunk for 3 days. How many of you get like birthday cards from your homeowner's insurance people? Once a year on your birthday, you get something from them. Do you like them anymore because you got it? Yet we tell ourselves that we need to have a birthday plan. I got news for you. Every single person in this room could have your people on the birthday smart plan and be no closer to a single consumer in the end, just like your homeowner's insurance person. You know why? Because actions without meaning are meaningless. It's not about the tactic that you use. It's about the syntax behind it. Here's the line. The conversation is the relationship. If you think back to that infinity loop, you're not closer to me because you sent me the birthday card. The only way to be closer to me if the birthday card was part of all of these other things and I actually thought that you meant it. Think about date night, right now. And you go to a movie on date night. And say the movie is terrible. It's abysmal. It's awful. It's like Midsummer. It's just bad, right? It's just a bad movie. Did anyone see that Midsummer movie? It was rough, right? Yeah. Bad. So you go, and it's just terrible. Does that mean that date night was terrible? Why not? Because it's everything that happened around the bad movie. What was our conversation? Did we hold hands? Did I actually have a plan for dinner? Or did I say, where do you want to go? Like, did I actually give it any thought? Did I come home from work ready to actually enjoy it? Or did I come home angry that I had to go? Did I get dressed up for it? Did I actually have a plan to make the other person think that I actually care? And here's the worst, do I? We won't get into that. So, you can have a terrible movie, but a fantastic date night because the relationship is everything that happens around the movie. The relationship is the conversation. So now ask yourself, if I've been in one long conversation with each person in my data bank, are they enjoying this relationship? Some of you can say yes, some of you can say no, some of you can say everyone in my system is being treated differently. So some would say yes and others would say no. There's an infinite number of answers here. Here's the guarantee, and I promise you this. The more people in your data bank that can answer that question yes, the richer you would be. And so this becomes the challenge. I want to give you a couple of examples of ways to make this feel more organic. Because I spent 40 minutes on these big kind of concepts. These big concepts are what you need to leave thinking about. Now, how could you make it live and breathe? The greatest person that I've seen make this live and breathe, and I'm going to give you a bunch of examples throughout the day, and I've told the story. Has anyone heard my Savannah, Georgia model? No one else has heard the Savannah, Georgia model? The Savannah, Georgia model changed my life, right? You're going to be bored during it, but it literally changed my life.
I have it recorded and I play it for my son all the time.
I love it. It changed my life. What happened was I was running and gunning for HGTV, number one in my time slot. 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. And I was just crushing it on that network. And grandparents all over the country loved that show. And that was my demographics. Anyway, so I was like on the road 300 plus days during those years. I represented 30% of the first round of the NFL draft in 2016. Like, I was busy. I'm not as busy now, but I was busy then. And so I decided I was going to take a couple of months off. And so we went to Savannah, Georgia, just to kind of recharge our batteries. Anyone been to Savannah, Georgia? Savannah, Georgia, if you haven't been, go. It's an amazingly cool place. And it's really romantic. There's ivy that hangs off in the tree. Like, if you can't find romance in Savannah, you might be dead already. Like, it's just that kind of place. And so I went there, and we were going to spend a couple of months. But, we're supposed to say and now, because it's bold, and there was a problem. And the problem was, and if you're from the South, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but there's just a different pace of life in Savannah, Georgia. Like, it's just slower in the South, there I say. Not people, but just everything else. Like, it takes like 2.5 hours to have dinner there. It takes like 40 minutes to get gas. Grocery shopping is a weekend. Like, it's just slow in the South. Which is cool, but I needed to speed it all up. And so I decided that I was going to try to find a way to fill some of the day. And so I went to the local Keller Williams office to do it. I've been at KW now for 20 years, it's just it's my default. But I don't have a Georgia real estate license. So I got there, and the only thing that I could do was work at the front desk, which was, I actually was excited about it. I was going to be like, I was going to take messages, hug people. I'm in. Like, I actually would like that. It fits my personality. But then they found out on the second day that I can't read or write. which made it really difficult. Because I would give people their messages, and they'd be like, I can't read this. And I'd be like, either can I, hug? And it got real awkward. I was known at it. And so they asked me if I would just help coach some agents instead. And I said, sure, I can do that. And they brought in this woman for me to start with, and she was in her mid-40s, and she was one of the top producers in the office, about 15 million in production, which I think is a ton of business if you're a sole practitioner. And I said to her, how can I help you? And she said, I'm getting out of the business. And I was like, they're going to blame me. You can't get out of the business now. I mean, I just started. And it's coaching. It's about me, not you. And she said, that's how most coaches think about it. There you go. And so I said, well, you can't get out. And she said, well, I'm going to. And I said, well, why? And she started to describe this. And she said, you know, there used to be a romance about real estate in Savannah, Georgia that I really liked. All of the agents were competent, which isn't the case today. Imagine. And everyone knew each other. Like when we would present an offer, we'd go meet with the other agent. And we'd have a cup of coffee. And we would talk about each other. And then I would say, oh, by the way, I have an offer. And we would work through the business. And clients valued us. And you didn't have to make cold calls because we were getting referrals. And I was the neighborhood expert. And that mattered. And now none of those things matter. And I don't want to wear a headset. I don't want to buy leads online. And I'm really unhappy. And I'm getting out of the business. I was like, man, she's just throwing all this at me. And I said, well, cool. But if you actually felt that way again, would you stay in? And she said, yes. And I said, so what? All I'm hearing is that you don't like your life. And you've decided to focus in on residential real estate. And she goes, no, I'm not saying that. And I was like, okay, well, let's prove it. Think about and just start making a list of all the things you did last week that you did for yourself that you loved. And she had a really hard time putting anything down. And here's what we know now from all of the data. Ladies, talking directly to you, which we kind of have to do because 62% of our industry is made up of strong women. And you know what? You're not enjoying your lives. The data is back. And you know what it shows? You guys will take care of everybody else. You'll take care of strangers' needs before your own. You put everyone before you, and so you stop doing the things that you like. Guys, you're fine, it turns out. And so, you'll take care of yourselves, right? Yeah. But ladies, you won't. And for our industry, that's devastating because our industry has been built on strong women from when it started. Top agents have always been the strong women in the community. And so when we have this problem, we have it as an industry. I think this is universal for guys too, to a different extent. But the truth is, at some point in your life, you stop doing the things you enjoy and you start replacing those things with obligations. The next step of that is you actually convince yourself that you have to do the obligations in order to continue living your life. And then you build social confines around them. So think of all the social contracts that you're honoring right now so as not to hurt other people's feelings, even though those contracts might be making your life less desirable. We as humans create these structures, and you can't help yourselves. The reason you do that is because the part of your brain that's responsible for social interaction and learning from the past has about 19 billion neurons in it. To put that into context, a chimp has about 9 billion neurons in the same part of their brain. So you guys are using so much of your bodily energy, true, this is why you have to eat so much, to actually maintain all of the thoughts that you're having. Your minds are running 24 hours a day. And you're not really in control of the things that they're saying. You're literally living with an insane person in your head all the time. And this insane person is constantly contradicting themselves, and then they're coming up with different ideas. And then your insane people actually decide what other people are thinking. And they then tell you that, and for some reason you're like, oh my gosh, great point. Instead of saying, are you an idiot? How do you know what they're thinking? This passenger that you're carrying in your head makes these decisions. Here's how you can test it right now. Yell in your head the word shut up. Isn't it weird how you actually can hear yourself yelling it? But you're silent. That's how powerful the voice in your head is. It can change the tenor, it can change the tone. And think about when you and your voice are fighting with each other. Think about the last time that you couldn't fall asleep and you kept saying, I want to sleep, and then the voice said, can't go to sleep. And you just laid there, irritated, arguing with your passenger. Or your roommate, or however you want to call it. Like, it's crazy to think about this. You realize this passenger, this roommate that you've decided to stay with, sometimes will just sing songs. If I was your office mate, and I just started singing the same song all day, you would say, hey, bro, what are you doing? But yet you say, I have a song stuck in my head. And somehow that's a reasonable thing that's your passenger just singing. It's insane. It's literally insane. And the big first step is recognizing when this voice is talking to you. You have to start thinking about this voice. When you hear your roommate talking, you have to ask yourself, do I want to have this conversation right now? And if you don't, you can just say to your roommate, it's really not a good time for me. Because here's the thing, it's actually you! So in her mind, all of these things were terrible, and she had to do, did I just break this? Okay, in her mind, am I good? Okay, can we do this on the fly? Thanks. So in her mind, she had to wake up and do all these things she didn't want to do every day. And because of that, she hated her life. So cool. So we decided we were going to fix it. I'm going to give you the model that we tried. If you're taking notes, now's the time. Step 1, you got to go back and you got to write down a list of 3 things that you would actually want to be doing if you weren't selling real estate 24 hours a day. Like, think hobbies on this. Now, here are the rules for the hobbies. Number 1, they can't be something you do alone because it's awkward for me to help you. I'm not saying those aren't great hobbies. I'm just saying I can't build a real estate model around that. So, you can't do it alone. Number 2, you'd have to be willing to do it every single week. So if you pick like travel to Europe, I'm gonna have a really hard time scaling. You gotta be able to do it once a week. And number 3, you actually wanna do it. This would be, here's how you know when you wanna do something. You actually are present during it. It's not like date night. I mean, this is when you wanna do it, right? What, you're telling me you don't take phone calls during date night? You don't check your phone? You don't check text messages? I'm just saying. You all were like, oh my God. But you're doing the same thing. How many people tell me I'm doing all this so I can spend more time with my family? And then I'm awesome. Tell me about the time with your family. And they're like, oh, it's great. I take phone calls and I bring my laptop to vacations. Awesome. You're winning. Think about that for a second. You know how you know you really want to do something? It's not by saying you want to do it. It's by being present during it. That's how you're going to know if you have the right 3 activities. Now, step number 2, once you have those, you got to go talk to the people closest to you. This is paramount. And you have to ask them what they think you would be doing. When I mentioned that to her, she said, I don't know what you mean. And I said, well, tell me about who's close to you. Tell me about your life. And she said, well, I got a husband, high school sweethearts. We raised family together. We're madly in love. And I was like, okay, will do. What else do you have? And she had 2, I always forget the word for this. She had 2 twins that were ready to go to college. Not the lookalikes, the other kind. She had a couple of fraternals. And I said, they'll do. Fine. You got to go ask them what they want to be doing. She said, cool. We decided to meet the next week. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop in Savannah. And in Savannah, you get your coffee, and then you go sit outside in these little squares and drink it. That's how everyone does. So we get to the coffee shop. I get to the coffee shop. I got there early. I get my coffee. She walks in. She takes one look at me, and she just starts crying. Just breaks out in tears. So I ignored her. And so she, public place. And so I'm doing everything except talking to her, and she's just crying, and now everyone's looking, so I knew I had to do something. So I walked up to her, and I said, stop crying. It's my go-to. Yet she just kept crying. And so I said, you're overreacting. You have nothing to cry about, which is how I relate. And none of this works. It's really weird. Some of your husbands that went to the same course I did. And so she's just crying like this, and finally she gets herself under control and herself together, and I then said, why are you crying in front of all these strangers? And then I realized that I was shouting, which is my default. And I said, oh my gosh, I got to get it together. And so we went outside and we sat down, and I said, what happened to you? And she said, I hate you and I hated this activity. And I said, thanks for the transparency. Tell me more. And she said, this was awful. And I said, well, which part? And she said, talking to the people closest to me was awful. And I said, okay, well, how was step 1? She said, step 1 was great. I knew exactly what I liked doing. I said, well, what did you do? She said, playing tennis, boating, and shopping. I said, great choices. Not what I would have picked, but fine. Why was step 2 so terrible? And she said, they don't know me at all anymore. And I said, well, tell me about it. And she said, well, I went to see my boys. I said, boys, what would Mom be doing if I wasn't working all that? And they said, Mom, it's so obvious you'd be cooking. And she said, why do you say that? And they said, you do it 3 times a day, every day. No one would do it unless they loved it, especially that often. And you're always talking about it. You're either going to the grocery store, making a list to go there. You must love that experience. And you're in the dishwasher. The dishwasher, your head is in it literally all day. You don't even know what you're doing it. Don't you? And every gift we've given you has been about cooking. And you kept telling us you loved them. Remember, we made you a cookbook when we were in elementary school? We made that for you. Then we bought you all those gifts. We bought you cookbooks. We bought you spatulas. You turned 40. We got you a Mixmaster, the T01. It was $400. And you said you loved it. Did you lie to us, Mom? This really happens. And I think it happens for a lot of us. And so she had this moment where she got real honest. And she said, yes, I hate cooking and I hate all of you. And so it was emotional. She said, I don't like cooking. That's just part of being a mom. It's just a mom. I got to keep everyone alive. Along with everything else, I got to do that. And she was upset. So she went to talk to her husband, because the husbands make moms feel better. And so she went to talk, and she said, what should I do? She asked the same question. He said, sweetheart, I know where your heart is, and I love you, and I've always known who you are. She said, well, who am I? And he said, deep down inside, she said, yes. And he said, you're a cheerleader. Yeah, it's sad, right? She said, well, how do I know? And he said, you love it. In high school, you cheered every Friday. Every day after school, you cheered. College, cheering again. Georgia Bulldogs, it was either cheering or day drinking or both. You loved it. And I know you still want to do that. And I know you're planning at some point of making a triumphant return. She said, why do you think that? And he said, well, you kept the whole outfit. That was literally his evidence. And she realized that real estate's a contact sport and that absolutely nobody had any idea what she likes doing. And so she decided right then and there that she was going to make a change. And this is how the change happened. I said we can fix this. The first thing you got to do is you got to pick one of these three things. She decided to pick tennis. I said, great, here are the rules. You got to play once a week. She decided to play on Tuesdays from 11 to 1. I said, here's the next rule. You only can do it with strangers. She said, well, I don't know any. I said, right. The idea. She said, how do I meet them? I said, you call everyone you do know. This is how you do this. You call everyone you do know and you say, look, I love playing tennis when I was younger. I haven't been doing it. I'm going to start again. Who do you know that I need to that might want to play with me? I don't have anyone to play with. And now you're going to meet a whole group of people. Here's the truth. By the way, you're not the only miserable people. Everyone else is miserable also. So they love getting this phone call because they haven't been doing the things that they like either. Number 3, you got to make the activity easier and more fun for everyone else. This is a key part to this. I'm going to explain how that works in a minute. And number 4, you actually have to go and enjoy yourself. This is the equation. So how does it work in practice? So she picks tennis. And so here's what happens. She calls these women and she says, we're going to play tennis on Tuesday from 11 to 1. Don't worry about bringing water, I'm doing it. Don't worry about bringing a snack, I got that on lock. Don't worry about bringing tennis balls, I'm bringing those also. Just come and be ready to have a good time. I'll tell you, when they hear that, it makes it easier. It removes the anxiety. They don't have to think about it. They just get to show up. Now they show up to play. 7 women show up, which is weird, and they have a great time playing tennis. What do you think happens other than tennis that day? They like her, sure, but they end up talking to each other. Right? I mean, what happens when 7 women that don't know each other get together besides wine? They talk. They get to know each other. They start to experience. It's called community. It's the initial part of a community. And here's what we know. We know that in order to get people to like other people, they have to have a shared experience. And in this case, the shared experience is playing tennis. And so it doesn't matter what happens around it as long as they're doing that. And she's made it easier. Now you have to have 3 points of communication. Once before the event, which is the initial phone call. Then during the event, you got to touch base with everyone there to make sure they're having fun. And then after the event, you got to send a follow-up. So she sends a newsletter. Tennis was great. Tracy beat Samantha. Nikki beat Georgia. Tina got hit in the eye. Whatever it is, she sends this follow-up. Same time next week. And here's what ends up happening. Here's the universal truth. If you can become the best part of somebody's week, they love you for it. Now you know how many things you're not doing every week that you enjoy. Do you think it's any different for everyone else in your data bank right now? Here's the numbers on it. Americans have never been less happy. And affluent Americans have really never been less happy. We have more money and more stuff, and happiness is at one of the all-time 50-year lows. And you know what? We solve it in really short bursts. That new Tesla only feels good for 2 days. It only feels good the first time you drop a French fry that you can't get out of the middle thing. And after that, you're like, shit, it's over. The things you buy only feel good for a few days. At most, it's a short-term fix. The true happiness comes from community. The Harvard Happiness Project proved it. If you haven't read it, read it. And if you want to save yourself the time, just go to the Google TED Talk Harvard Happiness Project. It'll tell you more about the residential real estate business than anything else you'll do. And what it tells you is that the happiest people in the world are the ones that are part of vibrant communities. That's the only secret to happiness. That's it, period. Longest running collegiate study in history, started in the 30s, follows 2,200 children of the original group of men that was following. Like, it's a no-joke study. And all it says is that people in community are happy. Lonely people die sooner. Lonely people have less enjoyment out of life. Lonely people would make less money. Lonely people are generally less fun to be around. Community. That's the key. So now she's got these 7 women playing tennis. And here's what ends up happening. They naturally tell other people about it that they're enjoying. And before you know it, the group grows from 7 to 40. True story in Savannah. They don't even have tennis courts to hold 40 women in Savannah. She plays twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. 20 women in each group. It's cool. And before long, she gets smart. Now the tennis balls that she brings have her real estate team logo on. The water bottles have her real estate team logo on. Her admin shows up and hangs up a big sign on the chain link fence about her real estate team. Her follow-up newsletter has the words real estate and gives a little blurb about the market in it. You see, what she does is she gives them the best part of their week and then she sprinkles real estate on top. That's the key. If your relationship right now is real estate with emotion sprinkled on top, that's why no one cares about you. If it was a relationship based on something human and the real estate was sprinkled on top, now you have a data bank. Think about the last time you went and interviewed at your good friend's house for the listing. Did it feel like an interview? It felt like an infinity loop, that this was the next logical step. And maybe going to dinner last night was cool, and now you're just sitting at their house doing paperwork, and the reason it didn't feel weird was because it was organic. And the next step in everyone's relationship, the ultimate next organic one, is when you know that the relationship is healthy. Which is why when you cold call your data bank, it doesn't feel good. Because it wasn't the next logical organic step, because you didn't do any of the steps before it, which is actually build an emotional relationship with it. So now she's got this group of women. Now they're getting together once a week to play tennis. She's doing it twice a week, and she is the mayor of Tennis Town. She is at the center of the community. She's the mayor of the group, and she becomes the best part of their week. And how do you say thank you to a real estate agent? Referrals. So you're no longer doing lead gen. Lead gen becomes part of the infinity loop at that point, just like playing tennis was on. It just is right. She blows this up. She then starts doing what we all do when we make more money. She starts shopping. And she uses the exact same model. She does this thing on Wednesdays where she has people meet at the mall. They meet at the center of the mall at the Starbucks in the middle of it. This sounds awful, seventh circle of hell, but she loves it. And the women talk about what they're going to go buy for the next hour. Then they break up into little groups and they go shopping. Then they come back at the end of the hour and show each other what they bought. What? Yes. That actually happens. Sounds awful to me, but they love it. During the holiday season, she'll sometimes have up to 100 women that will show up. 100 of them. Now, and they don't bum rush, they don't go out together and like hit Vicky's Secret like 100 Mott deep. They self-segment. So 2 of them that are friends will go, and then these 4 will go, and then this table, just the way that you self-segmented when you came into this room. Because you're a community. That's what they do. But she's the mayor of it. Just like this, and just like that. Someone's always in front. Patrick can ask you guys to say something to his wife because you care about Patrick. Right? If you didn't like him, if we all knew it, is he here? Okay. If you didn't like him, and if we thought he was a bad guy, and he said, hey, everyone help make my 16th wedding anniversary better, how would you have reacted? You would have said, don't care. Not saying it. You guys actually said it and then started cheering. You did that organically. Because you do care. You actually felt good about helping them. That's community. Who feels good when they give you a referral? So someone that really cares about you, right? This is the shared experience. The shopping thing works. I've seen so many examples of this. There's a guy in Grand Rapids, Michigan, who I coached and I taught how to do this. He's into board games. That's his thing. I'm not. I'm an adult. That's his thing. Every single Wednesday in downtown Grand Rapids, he found a bar. They let him set up 5 high-top tables with 5 different board games. And people come after work, they have a beer and simply play a game. And he goes table to table, like you did at your first wedding. You know, the second one you just eat. But he makes sure everyone's having a good time. And they love him for it. There's a lot of people that want to play board games, apparently. I didn't know that. There's a woman in Northern California, which I think, are we there? She's in wine country. She literally does a wine tasting every Thursday night, which in and of itself, there's nothing amazing about that. But hers is cool, because in order to get in, you got to bring a bottle of wine, and then you have to tell the story of the bottle of wine. And people love it. She has entire couples who make date night around her client event, which is not a client event because they're not clients. They were friends first. Because they're surrounded about wine. I got an ex-cop in Vegas who does this around target shooting. I got a former baseball player in Arizona who does this around softball. Guys, you have to decide what community you're going to start and how you're going to be at the center of it. I'll tell you the best example. The Lakes Lady is in Michigan. Boating season in Michigan is like 8 days long. Okay? I'm kidding. It's 60 days. Right? She's the Lakes Lady. She wanted to become the #1 agent on the lakes. So I was coaching her, and I spent, I brought her into real estate, and I spent 90 days maybe trying to understand what she was good at. And I saw one thing pop up consistently in her life, and it was smoking cigarettes and drinking. and by the way, she's the best at it. And so I said to her, because and by the way, she's the person you always want to be around. She makes you feel so good about you, right? She's just awesome. She's got this amazing infectious laugh and this curly hair. She's the coolest. And so I said, I think you should sign a waiver. And she goes, what do you mean? I go, in order to get the next piece of advice, you should sign this. And she did, and I was like, we're going all in on drinking and smoking. She said, what do you mean? And I said, you know what? We're embracing it. We're going to go hard. And I don't want to hear any excuses. She said, I love your style. And so here was the deal we made. If you want to drink, I want you to go 7 days a week in this case. And she said, this is so inappropriate. I said, cool. You have to do this during boating season, which means you have 60 days, give or take. Every single day during that 60 days, you better be on one of the lakes that you want to own. And anytime someone lights a cigarette, it better be lit by you. And anytime someone has a drink, I want you having one with them. And she said, I don't think I'll need an accountability partner. And I said, right. It's going to be great. And she went all in. And I mean all in. And she still does it today. And I mean to tell you that she starts at 10 in the morning because there's always someone on that lake who's drinking at 10 a.m. And she goes till midnight or past. And she's the life of the party. And she doesn't even think about real estate during that time because no one sells their home on the lake during boating season. They enjoy it. And then they all sell it during the other 10 months of the year. And she's not just like the #1 realtor in the area. She's the #1 realtor by 100 miles. No one is close to her. Because when they do go to sell, who do they call? They call their friend. The person they were loaded with. The person that they give cigarettes with. The person that makes them feel good about the vices that they're hiding from everyone else. She embraces it. They feel great about it. Her trinkets and trash, she has lighters. On one end is a bottle opener, on the other end is the lighter. And I want to tell you, people have these things in the glove boxes of their boats for years. Anyone in here who owns a boat knows exactly what I mean. You always have a lighter on board, even if you're not the one smoking, because someone is going to want to have a cigarette. The one day a year they come out on your boat is the day they decide to smoke parliaments again. Cool. I get it. She embraces that. We all do. Yeah. It's so funny, right? Realtors all smoke parliaments. Anyway, so she embraces that in this amazing way. Who in here likes to golf? Play that game. How do you think about the day you're going golfing? How do you feel about it when you're getting dressed? And you know you have the day and you're putting on the white pants and you got an orange belt and you look good. And you're like, I'm going golfing. You feel great about the next 5 hours. Especially if you got a kid under the age of 10 at home. You can't wait to be away for 6 hours on the golf course. But I'm a humanist. I embrace all of those instincts. I know how you feel. So how do you think that other people would feel if you were the one organizing golf? That's becoming the best part of somebody else's week. I think that the pie giveaway, not to beat on y'all, but I think that that was a really lame attempt at making someone happy. It was, I want to show value, I want to do something for someone. And here's what I want to tell you. None of your clients are so tight right now that the pie is out of reach. They're all fine. And so if we gave you a smart plan through Command that made the pie giveaway that much more dynamic, would it really be such a smart plan? If you're planning around a useless activity, it doesn't matter how many different ways we get other people to know about it. Now, think about whatever you're into. For her, it was day drinking and smoking. For the other kid, it was board games. There's a woman in Jersey who's into cooking, and she moved here from India, and she's a vegetarian cook. And she's like the sweetest little thing ever. I love her. And her passion is cooking. And every Friday night, she brings 2 or 3 people into her house and she teaches them how to cook Indian vegetarian food. That's it. But I want to tell you, because I went, you see people standing around this Formica Island, and the doctor is cutting onions, and the lawyer's over here, because everybody wants to. It's just fun. It's a great Friday night. And the smells that come off of her stove are amazing. And what she's not doing is telling people what the average price per foot is. Because nobody cares anymore. And so she is living this life. Here's what the internet taught us. By the way, if you own a team, imagine if everyone on your team was doing one thing a week that they loved using that model. How many people would be vibrant within your data bank? If you're on an ALC, imagine if everyone else on it was doing one thing they loved every week. What would the ALC look like? What would the culture in the office look like if everyone was actually enjoying the week? It's probably the most scalable lead generation model there is. And no matter what you're into, there's someone else into the same thing. The internet has taught us that. No matter what fetish you're into, there's a chat room for it. You know this to be true at this point. Which means that you couldn't come up with an activity that someone else wouldn't want to do with you. So what's the activity? Write it down. What do you want to do? What do you want to do once a week that you would actually enjoy, such that you wouldn't have to say, I don't know, door knock? Which also sounds like a lot of fun to me. I'm not saying it isn't. That's a model. That's how I want you guys to think. That wasn't up on the list of 10, by the way. You could do the same thing, by the way, on business to business. What if business to business didn't mean actually going to a business and having a referral-based relationship? What if what you really did was you looked at what businesses could send you the most referrals, and then you became friends with the people in those businesses? Meaning, like, how many of you have been going out to lunch for the last couple of months with divorce attorneys? One of you. Cool. Let's look at the math on this. The average divorce attorney does 10 divorces a month. That's the average. Which means that the average divorce attorney is connected to the sale of 10 marital homes. Plus, each ex needs to either buy or rent. That's 30 real estate deals a month per divorce attorney. That's 360 a year. I don't know about you, but to me that sounds like fantasy land. Like, it sounds literally like a fantasy place. Like there's a gumdrop river and chocolate trees and people have to sell their house by court order. It sounds like the happiest place on earth to me. If you're not hanging out with divorce attorneys, where are all those real estate leads going? You see, what if your model, what if you were going to go business to business, but instead of actually coming in and trying to get referrals, instead you make a list of every divorce attorney and then figured out activities to invite them to so that they actually had a good time. And once a month you became the best part of their week. What's that? Drinking and smoking. So here's the model. Here's how you do it. This is model number 2. Write down all of the things you love doing that you're currently doing. You don't have to think hobbies anymore. I'll give you an example. I really like going to sporting events. I would have that. I also like really going to lunch. In high school, I would go for a whole day. This would be on my list. I also like target shooting. I don't know if they even have that, but in Detroit, that's a big deal. Everyone does that. So they're not grandiose activities. Here's step 2. You got to write down exactly how you like to do that. Here's what I mean. I like to go to sporting events, but I don't like to drive in park. It's overwhelming to me. So I take a limousine, and I want to pull up right in front. And on the way, I want to probably have a cocktail. And then once I get there, I want to eat everything they sell. All the way from the soft pretzel to the frozen lemonade and the nachos, everything in between. And then I want to leave at halftime because I don't think I can affect the outcome, and so I don't need to stay till the end. And then I want to be back in my limo and at home before the game is over. That's how I like to go to a sporting event. Now, the vast majority of you are thinking, this guy's an idiot. Like, I would never, but there's 3 of you who are like, I love him. Oh my gosh. Finally, someone who knows how to go to a sporting event. So here's the deal. I'm only looking for the 3 of you that know the right way to do it, like me. I'm trying to make friends, but here's my definition of a friend. It's someone who does what I want, when I want, the way that I want it done. Those are the best relationships for me. Those are the ones that I seem to thrive in. And so as opposed to chasing the ones that don't fit that, I've pretty much just given up. And so I try to hang out with those people. The problem is I have no way of filtering to know which one of you actually know how to go to a sporting event. So here's what I do.
I do.
Yeah, you know, I love that. So here's what I do. I figure out my list of people that could be influential to my business. For me, that's lawyers, accountants, and financial advisors. It's always been that way for me, because those are the things that affluent people have in common. They all have all 3 of those things. And I only want to sell houses to rich people. Not that everyone else shouldn't have service, it's just not for me. You figure it out. In every socioeconomic area, here's what ends up happening. You end up with buyers and sellers on top. Buyers and sellers are here. And realtor is here. And there's this space in the middle. And the space in the middle, no matter what socioeconomic area you're in, is filled with a different person. So when I grew up in Detroit, the person in the middle is the barber. The barber knows everything in Detroit. Like, you're like, who shot who? Good. Rich people, though, it's lawyers, accountants, and financial advisors. For you, it might be someone faith-based. It might be a coach. Ask yourself, who's in between you and the customer you want right now? Write it down. Who is in between you? By the way, when I was representing DJs, I represented 20 of the top 50 DJs in the world. The person in between me and them was their financial advisor. There's someone in between. You have to know who you want to do business with right now to answer this. And if your answer is I want to do business with everybody, it turns out you're pretty much doing business with nobody, because you're never going to have a large population of that segment. So everyone says to me, how did you become the Jerry Maguire of real estate? How did you represent so much of the draft? I knew I only wanted to represent professional athletes. And it's real easy. If the word here is professional athletes, then who's here? Agents. Which meant every day I woke up and I tried to meet an agent. Who do you want to represent? If it's rich people, by the way, you're going to come back to lawyers, accountants, and financial advisors. That's just how that ends up working. So now, once you have them, here's the trick. You have to meet them, you have to become friends with them, and then you have to get their confidence. Whether you're selling $100,000 or $100 million houses, $100 million, right? It just comes down to the consumer have confidence that you're the person to shepherd them through the experience. That's it. The $100,000 person, it takes less to convince them of that. We have the same challenge. So now, how do you meet the people that are on top? You go through the person in the middle. How do you meet the person in the middle? You first identify them. Step 1, identify who's in the middle. Step 2 becomes meeting them. Step 3 becomes being their friend. And step 4 is cashing the commission checks. Would you like an example of how that works in practice?
Yes.
Okay, here's how it works. I'm going to give you the model for divorce attorneys. And I'm going to give it to you step by step. This is not to say that you would copy each of these steps. It is to say that I want to show you how a relative thinking person came up with the model, so that you can go back and try to make a similar framework. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, step 1 is I had to find it. All I do is I Google divorce attorney and then the city. So you're going to need to actually know who these people are. Step 2 is the reverse cold call. I call them. And the way that I get people on the phone that I otherwise wouldn't is I call them before business hours and I use the dial by name directory. Because most of the owners and people that you think you can't talk to are in before everybody else. Then once I get them on the phone, I simply gave a script. And I'm going to give you mine, although yours is going to be different. My script was, hey, my name is Jason Abrams. I represent a lot of people when they buy and sell houses. Half of my clients are going to get divorced. That's just what the data shows. And I don't know a great divorce attorney. Can I come in and spend 15 minutes with you and learn about your business? And some of them say yes, and some of them say no. The ones that say no, I say, I get it, you're really busy. Is there anybody, though, further down the trough at your firm, maybe like a first-year person that I could come in and speak with? And they all say yes to that. So I'm getting a yes either way. The next step comes the actual meeting itself. Now keep in mind, they're only 15-minute meetings. So my goal was to call for them on Mondays and Tuesdays and then do them on Wednesdays and Thursdays. My goal is to do 4 meetings on Wednesday and 4 meetings on Thursday. So now I have a really easy metric of whether or not I'm hitting my goal. Here's the rule for the meeting. It's only 15 minutes. Number 1, you can't bring your cell phone, because they're not going to think you care. Number 2, you can't bring like a name badge, because although there's a time and place for that, it isn't this time. You can't bring your bio. You can't bring a quiche recipe. You can't bring a Keller Williams yard sign with you. You can't bring a lap dog or anything else realtors like to carry. You can't do any of that. You got to go anti-realtor. Anything a realtor would do, go opposite. There's a reason why. If you show up and you look like every realtor that they're expecting, they discount you immediately. Because the data is in. That real professionals, business to business, don't think realtors are real professionals. And so you got to work on dispelling that right away. Now you go in, the meeting is 15 minutes. Here's what I said. Hey, my name is Jason, you know that. I'm not going to bore you with anything that I do for a living. I'm just a realtor. I'm the best realtor, but just a real, we all know what they do. So in the next, I really only have, when I said 15 minutes, I actually meant it. I'm slammed this time of year. I say that all year. I only have 15 minutes. Tell me not how you do the law, but why you do it. So it's a why question. And then I say, if I know why someone does something, I can decide if I can be in business. So in 15 minutes or less, tell me why the law, and more specifically, why divorces? Now break script. When you ask somebody a why question, they're absolutely shocked and they have no answer. But as soon as you ask them that why question, they're going to sum up their life in like 2 or 3 minutes. That's when you have to ask for the next thing, which are open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are the key to all sales. An open-ended question is one that doesn't end in yes or no. Questions that end in yes or no kill sales. A friend of mine, when he was 15, he leaned over and he asked this girl, he said, "Can I kiss you?" And she said no. Where do you go from there? I don't, wasn't me. It's devastating, I bet, for him. Anyway, okay, so now you ask open-ended questions and you just let them talk about themselves for 15 minutes. Then at the end of the 15 minutes, and by the way, if you talk about yourself, you lose. The only way you can screw this up is if you talk. Just let them talk about themselves, because when you let people talk about themselves, they move emotionally closer to you. So I just let them go for 15 minutes, and then at the end I go, "Wow, awesome, thank you so much. You know, now I really do have, I think, a good feel for why you do this. Now do you have anything I can take with me?" That's the ask. That's the next step. I ask them for something that I can take. Do you have something that explains your business? What can I take now that I can read and learn about you? And then in order to get it, they either have to turn around or they have to print something. They have to do something. And at that moment, I do the next step, which is called the look. I look around that office for something of a personal nature. A set of golf clubs, a tennis racket, an alma mater, something that I can see that tells me about who they are as a person. And I make a mental note of what that is. Then I say, "Fantastic. I'm going to email you if I have any questions. Is that cool?" And then they say, "Give me your business card." And I say, "I don't carry them. The last thing I need are more phone calls." But anyway, thanks. And now they have no idea what to make of you. Like their heads are going to explode. They don't even know what to do with that information. And then I leave. The next step is called the brain dump. I go to the car and I write down everything I learned about it, with paying special attention to whatever their personal item was. Now, there's 2 people in this room that I actually did this to, so this doesn't mean I don't care about you and that I have a system. This is how I do it. So now I know exactly what their personal item is, and I go on the next appointments. Are we good up to this point? The next step, I go to the bookstore at the end of that day. And I go to the magazine rack, and I buy a magazine on whatever the personal item is. So if it was golf clubs, I'd buy Golf Digest. If it was like their alma mater, I'd buy College Football Review. There's a magazine on there's even a magazine now on smoking pot. I swear, I got that for someone the other day. There's a magazine for everything. Now I have the magazine, and I simply put a Post-it note on the front. And I was reading this and thought of you, and I dog-ear one of the pages. Then I put the whole thing into a FedEx envelope, and I send it to them. I don't write my name, I don't write my phone number, they still don't have my card, they just get this magazine. And then they get this FedEx package and they open it and they go zip, and I was reading this and thought of you, Jason. And they think, who the hell is Jason? They have no idea. And then they think, was it the realtor? And then they're like, I don't even have that guy's card, I don't even know his name. And then this is the magical part. They do what everybody does with a FedEx envelope. They put the stuff back in it. And then they leave the FedEx envelope on their desk because no one can throw away FedEx envelopes for some reason. I don't know why that is, but think about the last time you got one. They just hang around. And so this FedEx envelope now hangs around on this person's desks, and I've literally rented a space in their mind. It's the same thing. In high school, I used to only date girls that went to all-girls schools. So that they would have to think, there's no competition, they'd have to think about me all day long. Is the best, right? It was better than lead generation. It was the ultimate follow-up approach. And so now they're thinking about Jason, but they don't know why. And then at some point they open up this magazine and they read it and they actually enjoy that experience. And so I've already given a part of an organic experience. And then I just wait a couple of days and then I email them a question about whatever it is that they gave me. And now they write back and they say, by the way, did you send me a golf magazine? And then I write back, yeah, I love golfing. Do you? Question mark. And they're like, oh my gosh, yes, but how did you know? And now all of a sudden we're off and we're having a somewhat organic relationship. I say somewhat because right now it's a lot. Now it's got to get real. The next step, it's called the play date. And this is the next 90 days. Here's what I do. I take that list of all of the things that I want to be doing in life and the way that I want to do them, like the sporting event, and I simply call them and I ask them if they want to go. I give them an open invitation into my life. I say, hey, I'm going to, I don't know, a Michigan game this Saturday, but I go a little different than everyone else. Here's what I'm going to do, and I rattle it down. And I said, do you have any interest in doing that with me? Because I know you wanted to get to know me a little better. And 98% of them say no. But 2 of them say yes. That would be awesome. I'd love to do that. That's, by the way, I would love to go to a game like that. And yeah, and here's the thing, if I went with the other 98, we'd have a bad time, because I would say at halftime, let's get out of here, and they would say, we haven't even seen the band yet. And so I know I'm going to have a better time, because they're already enamored with the way that I want to do it. And now we go, and we have a great time. Here are the rules of the play date. Number 1, you can't talk about real estate. Anytime they bring it up, and they do, they're going to say, so you're in the real estate business, tell me about the market. And that's when you say, I would love to, but I actually come to Michigan games on the weekend to enjoy myself. And I want you to enjoy yourself too. We can meet in my office next week if you want to talk business, but when we're out, let's just be out. You can't bring your cell phone. If you do, you're going to ruin the day. Date night. Number 3, you have to actually enjoy the activity. If you do, they will also. Those are the rules. And so here's the math on this. I'm not looking for 100 friends a year. I'm looking for 3 friends a year that can each send me 50 deals. 3 divorce attorneys can easily send you 50 deals. And that would make up about 16% of the total aggregate business on their desk. So cool. So now I'm inviting the people. Some are going to never come. Some are going to come and we're not going to hit it off. I do this for 90 days with each person. Then on the 90th day, I do what I call the litmus test, which is I ask myself, and I say, self, did I become good enough friends with Bill such that I can call him right now and say, Bill, we're friends, right? And he'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like, well, how come you never sent me a real estate deal? He'd be like, well, you never asked. I'd be like, but I'm your friend. Your friends have to ask you for stuff? Awkward. And he'd be like, yeah, but I already work with someone. And I would say, I get it, man, but you can work with a lot of people. You already know me. You know what kind of person I am. Give me a shot. Give me the worst deal on your desk, and let me show you why I'm the best realtor in town. I bet you it'll just add to our friendship. I'm that good. And then they all bite on that, and then they're going to give you deals. And this is how I built my whole business. Before I knew it, I was off and running in a really big way, because I focused on divorce attorneys and agents for football players. And both of them worked. And that's how I built that entire business. This isn't a course about me, though, in my system. But here's my question back to you. You just heard a step-by-step course of the organic way to be a non-organic friend. Meaning that when you were 6, you were so good at making friends, you couldn't stop. My 6-year-old can walk into any room of 15 strangers that are all 6 and say the word poop, and now they're all boys. Like, they just think it's the funniest thing in the world. Like, and that's it. And now they're all friends, and there's no judgment. And he can go from not knowing you to calling you his best friend in a day. You are all experts at making friends, and yet you all have stopped. Because it's weird what happens. In your 20s, you start making less. In your 30s, you really believe if someone didn't know you when they were 15, they can't be a real friend. And then in your 40s, you start to realize how lonely you are because you've been hanging out with the friends, your parents of your kids' friends who are idiots. And then you hit your 60s, and all of a sudden you watch people start making friends again because you realize that relationships are where the true wealth is. Friends, the currency of residential real estate is relationships. Period. That's the currency by which we trade. Any other way to dress it up is a mistake. Everything we do is the conversation around the relationship. Those are just 2 really different ways of thinking about lead gen, such that it would never feel like lead gen. Is that fair?
Yes.
How much time do we have left? Cool. So here's what I want to do now. I just gave you 2 completely different ways to think about lead generation. Neither of them are trackable. Neither of them are going to show up on a spreadsheet. Neither of them need a different piece of technology. All of them are about humans. I'd like to switch gears, and now I want to go into all the more traditional stuff and give you some tactics around that. Any questions on that stuff? Is anyone thinking differently right now? Raise your hand if you're thinking differently. You don't have to if you're not. Okay, cool. For those of you that are at that back table, I don't know how to help you. I want you to. So I'm going to go traditional. Let's use this list that you guys made, and let's rip through it together. And now we're going to really pick up the pace. I'm going to give you a lot more to write down. Are you good to go? Shake it out. Everyone feel good? Who uses the phone in this room? Cool. Who uses the phone for lead generation? Cool. Who wants to buy, who in here is trying to buy more property for yourself? Okay, not enough of you. I want to talk about that concept because everything I'm about to tell you is a way to control more real estate. Here's how you should think about this. A guy named Brett Tanner drew this for me one day and it absolutely made my head explode. He said, Jason, life is about controlling real estate if you're going to be a realtor. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, on one side of it, you have the lowest form of real estate control. That's called a listing agreement. All that gives you is the right to talk about somebody else's marketable title. That's it. At any point, they can tell you to stop. You also can't make them sell. I said, cool. What's the highest then? And he said, well, that's over here. That's when you own a house that you own in cash. They'll take it from you, except the tax authority, it's yours. So the lowest form of control is a listing agreement. The highest form is owning a home for cash. Does that make sense? So where are most of Americans? In the middle. That's right. They actually own marketable title, but the bank owns the house because they have debt. Now, most people think about these 3 things. Friends, there is a million other ways in between to control real estate. From owning things with land contract to seller carryback to management companies to wholesaling to renovations to flipping, there's a million of them. You just have to decide which one of them you want to focus on. Every meeting that you take and every phone call that you get is an opportunity to control a piece of real estate. If you think about it only as a listing, you're really limiting the way that you think about it. So now, let's make the phone work. If you're using the phone as your weapon of choice, then you have to understand that it's a data-driven game. She with the best data wins when it comes to the phone, period. So you need to have the best data. I'm going to give you the places to get them right now. I'm going to do this relatively quickly. I really like a company called REWW. when it comes to that. I've given this trick to some of you before, but the weird thing is I don't think enough people are using it. I don't know why. REWW has one of the greatest phone lists ever. It's the vacant homes list. By zip code, they give you all the vacant homes. In my mind, if there's a vacant house, that is a now seller. Most of the real estate I buy comes off of that list. The next list that I like to buy from them is length of time in the home. I look for two people. Those that have lived in their home 6 years, because I think they're having that like 7-year itch. And those that have been in their home 25 years or more. Because those folks are on the way out. One way or the other. It's a great list.
REWW.
REWW.com. I don't own it, by the way. Great. I love it. The next list I buy from them is the debt to equity list. The debt to equity list is how much equity someone has in their house. I look for people by zip code who have an 85% plus equity position. Meaning I want the people that have the most to lose when the market changes. These are the people that are not close on it, they're not upside down, they have plenty of equity to do business with. It's a great list. The next place I like to get lists is a company called Rebo Gateway, R-E-B-O Gateway. Rebo Gateway has two lists that I love. One of them is the divorce list. That's everybody who filed for divorce last week. You can't call and be like, how's your week? I'm just calling to check in. Like, you can't do any of that. You have to call and be like, hey, I'm calling everyone in the area, because there's different times in your life that you don't really know what your home would sell for. If you had to sell in the next 90 days, something like that. It's a great list. The next one that I love is the eviction list. That's every landlord who filed for eviction last week. With that group, I say, hey, I'm just calling because I like to buy homes with tenants still in them. Do you have any interest in talking about that? They all are interested if they're in court. Who in here is calling canceled and expires? Anybody? For canceled and expires, I really like using a piece of technology called Slide Out. Some of you know what it is, but you're not using it this way, and I don't get that. Slide Dial, S-L-Y Dial. Slide Dial is a way for you to leave voicemails for all the people in your data bank or for other call groups. So I use it for both. I follow up with my SOI with Slide Dial, and then I leave canceled and expired to voicemail every morning with Slide Dial. And what my voicemail to canceled and expired says is it says, hey, my name is Jason Abrams. I'm a real estate agent. Your home came off the market last night. I'm leaving you an automated message, mainly because I respect you and your time. Anyone who started calling you at 7 a.m. doesn't respect either of those things. So you can listen to this message whenever you want. And if you're going to interview someone to sell your house, I'd like to be the only agent that respects you that you interview. Here's my phone number. By the way, if you don't call me back, I'm never going to call you again, and I wish you all the best. Good luck with it. And I drop that for every canceled and expired every morning. And what it does is it instantly makes anyone that did call seem disingenuous. And I get come listen to you phone calls back every day. That's a great way to do it. So if you can't make cold calls for whatever reason, you don't want to, use the Slide Out. The other place I use it is for everyone in my sphere of influence. So if you have past clients, raise your hand if you have past clients you haven't spoken to in the last 120 days. Oh, all of you? Good. That's unfortunate for them and us, but fine. Slide Out is a great option. Leave them all a voicemail. What it does is it shows up on their phone as a missed call. And then they just have a voicemail from you. So I like to do it during working hours when people are at work, so it's not weird that they got a message. And I just say, hey, it's Jason, your phone didn't even ring. Weird. Anyway, and then I just leave whatever message you want to leave. And they love it. No one picks up on that. It's a great way to make contact with people. When I just say, hey, I haven't spoken to you all year, it's already October, don't bother calling me back. I know how busy everyone is this time of year. But if you want to talk about real estate, then of course call me back because I'm working. If not, I'll try you towards the end of the year. And I just drop that for every single person. It takes about 6 minutes to do. It's insane not to be doing it. The next thing about the phone is that everyone you meet on the phone is just another person that goes into your data bank. So you've got to be using some sort of data bank. If you're at KW and you're not using commands, specifically contacts, I don't understand that. Who in here is using the monthly neighborhood nurture in command? For the rest of you that aren't, I don't understand that. Meaning that you have to be sending your people real estate information at least once a month. If you do nothing else, you gotta send them comps at least once a month. You just have to. Because if you don't, they go get the data somewhere else. That's why they all go to Zillow. We all know Zillow's not right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we all agree that all it does is give search and bad comps. But if you don't give the bad comps, you can't blame them for going there. Like, why do they go to Zillow anyway? It's easy, it's convenient. Why else? They don't want to talk to an agent. Why? Anything else?
It's very little information they have to provide.
They have to provide very little info. All of that, yes. And all of that wraps into another bucket, which is it lets them feel a little smarter about real estate. They just get to feel a little smarter about real estate. They feel smarter about their neighbor's house. They feel smarter about the one they live in. They feel smarter about the neighborhood they want to go to. They just feel smarter. It's like the Fitbit people that are tracking their steps. It's not really tracking your steps and your wrist. So it's not. It just lets them feel smarter about their bodies, even though it's a complete fake number. If I'm hurting anyone's feelings, is anyone wearing one of those? It's not even close. It's just a visual representation of your body's health provided to you in a non-scientific way. It's like those same people that say, I'm tracking my sleep, and I'm like, you're an idiot. You're not actually tracking your sleep, but it's fine. It's a goof. It's a parlor trick. But here's what we know. Anybody who's tracking their steps actually takes more steps during the course of the day. Because anything that you track improves. It's placebo. So if you're not sending information every month so that they can know more about their neighborhood or more about their real estate, they're going to go look for it somewhere else. So you've got to send it every month. If you're using third-party technology, send the property alerts. But if you're at KW, send the neighborhood nurturers. Put them on the neighborhood they live in. Put them on the neighborhood they might want to live in one day. Put them on the neighborhood where their kids live. Put them in the place what they're dreaming about. So if you get someone on the phone and you finally start forwarding them and you find out their dream is to move to Hawaii, put in neighborhoods in Hawaii. Even if you're using it as just a compass. Meaning if I sent all of you guys the monthly neighborhood nurture and most of you didn't open it, 8 of you would. I might not call all of you, but I would call the 8 that opened the thing. Like, right? Like, just use it as a way to know who's thinking about real estate and when they're thinking about it. There's no additional cost to it. You just have to actually log in and set it up once. Do that. Please get more curious about that. You have it. You're all paying $25 a month for tech, right? Give or take? You got the deal?
Yes.
Like through KW, or if you're at KW, you're paying a small amount of money for technology. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Cool. Be a little more curious about what you're paying for. If I went into your bank account right now and I took out $25, and next to it I wrote redistribution of wealth for all of humanity, you'd be pissed. You would call the bank and you'd be like, damn humanity. I want my $25 back. It's true, but so you're paying for this and you don't use it. Here, this is the best example. I went to the Mercedes dealership the other day to get a new car. They're showing me all the stuff in it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it does that. He goes, your current one does. I was like, it does? And he goes, didn't you read the book? And I was like, ah! And he was serious. I'm willing to bet most of you are driving cars, and those cars do things that you can't possibly know it does. And if you don't believe me, then take it to the next best example. You know about this much of what your cell phone does. It has so many new features. How about when you download a new thing and then it pops up to tell you about it and you don't even read it, you just click OK, as if you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's insanity. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know why you do that. I don't know why people do that. Why would you download the new stuff and then not read about the feature? Anyway, I would ask you to get in and be a little more curious about it and start using it. If you're using the phone, you meet people, you start sending the monthly neighborhood nurture, then as soon as they open it, you call them. If that was your whole follow-up plan, which is I send you information about real estate once a month and I call you once a month so that I can be likable, you'd all be rich within 3 years. You wouldn't be wealthy, you'd be rich. Because that's how it works. Right now, you're living here in the physical plane. We all live in California where there are no palm trees, apparently, or beaches. Great choice. But cool, you just take the taxes without any of the good stuff. On you. So, that's the physical world. The virtual world is the one that you have in your cell phones. It's your Instagrams, it's your Facebooks, it's your Amazons, it's the dating sites that you're not supposed to be. It's when you swipe right. It's all of that stuff. What are you doing right now to connect with your customers in the physical world? Write it down. Make a list. Okay? Not enough. Doesn't matter. That's the exercise for later. Make that list. Everything I do in the physical world to connect with my customer. Then over here, virtual world. Make a list of everything you're doing to connect with them in the virtual world. Now you're going to have these two lists. And by the way, if you end up with nothing on one side, you're going to lose. It's like hockey and not having you pull the goal. Because you're going to lose your people on one of these two sides. If you're not connecting with them and they don't like you, they're going to walk into an open house that I'm sitting in and they're going to like me. Ask yourself that question right now. If one of your customers who you haven't spoken with in the last 120 days ended up at a dinner with me at their table, do you think I would have a chance of taking them from you? Yes. Absolutely. I can't let any of my customers ever meet Jeff Lowe. I know this. The guy's completely scripted, he's not as cool as me, but he's gonna do his thing. I can't let that happen, which means I can't let anyone be friends with him. Cool, we live in the same market. What about virtual? What if you say, Jason, I'm doing nothing. I'm not sending mass text messages, I'm not doing slide out, I'm not sending monthly neighborhood nurture, I really don't do anything because I'm not a tech person. Cool. Just get ready to lose when Ben Kinney opens up an expansion location here. So here's what I'm saying. Figure out what you're doing on both. Then ask yourself, does any of what I'm doing matter and make me more likable? Then if you have anything left, we can start building out a model and system for that. Because here's the next step. Here are your questions when you get down to what you're actually doing. Number one, do I have the best model and system? So if you said to me, I need divorce attorneys, and I said, cool, is your system better than the one that I came up with? And you're like, no. Then I'm like, awesome. You need a different system. You gotta be using the best system. Number two, technology. Am I using a piece of technology to make this work better? In today's day and age, everyone needs one. Step three, a person. Am I missing a person or people? By the way, if you have the right system and the right technology, the next step is a bunch of people and you just change the world. Gary Keller has the right model, he has the right technology, he's the first person to have an active CRM in the 80s, he goes out and gets a bunch of people, we're all sitting here today. You can tell that story about almost any innovative company. It's problem, which is solved through system and model, technology, which gives you scale, and then people, which give you culture. Any problem you have in life, whether it's business or personal, you got a personal problem, it's the exact same thing. That's how really smart people make really complex problems easy. So, back to the phone.
Are you using a dialer?
What's that?
Are you using a dialer?
Yes, but I was using a dialer. That was the next one. I used the Mojo auto dialer. I think it's the best one out there. I think they have terrible customer service and it's overpriced. But I think it's the best on the market for what I'm doing. The auto dialer allows you to dial 3 numbers at a time. So it's like doing it faster. It's like, imagine if 6-minute abs really worked. Would anyone work out for the full hour? Cool. The auto dialer is just that. It actually works. You'll have 105 minutes of talk time as opposed to about 37 if you don't use it over a 2-hour call session. Which means if you don't like making cold calls, use the auto dialer because you'll get more done in the same amount of time. Cool. That's the phone. Door knocking, I mean, Sales Rabbit's the best app for door knocking. Who door knocks? Anybody? Use Sales Rabbit. Sales Rabbit is an app. Change your life. We door knocked in Arizona for 2 years. I would get up and I would say to the team, we're going to door knock today. And they'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like, we're going to go out there and meet people. And they'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like, let's go. And they'd be like, yeah. And I thought they were going. And I only found out they weren't by like a freak opportunity where I walked into a bar and my whole team was there. True story, I walked in, the whole crew was there in the middle of door knocking day. And I asked, and I found out why. I started asking what they were doing. They thought that door knocking felt like the lotto. Like it was 1 out of 100 chance, right? Like the thing was they were going to knock on doors, hope they get lucky. And a lot of them don't play the lotto. They don't like to gamble, so they didn't like the way that it felt. Door knocking is not the lotto. Door knocking, think of it as part of the infinity experience of just another way to make a human relationship. And Sales Rabbit, an app like this, is what makes it work. With Sales Rabbit, you put in the address that you're going to, it then brings up all the homes in that neighborhood. You then click on the house as you're walking up, it then lets you click yes or no. If they answer, you push yes. If you don't answer, you push no. This way, 6 months later, when you look up, you can see which houses you went to and which ones you didn't. Then if you click yes, it allows you to put in notes about what happens, which then you can API right up in the command if you want to keep them in the contact record. Let's just say you were actually playing that game. And so you knock on the door, and they say, what do they say? Who knocks on doors? What do you hear the most?
What do you want?
It's not a good time.
Yeah, not a good
What do
time.
you want? Who are you? All the things you would say if someone knocked on your door. Right?
We're not interested.
We're not interested. And so that's what you're expecting them to say. And so with Sales Rabbit, you would take a note. So if I knock on a door and you say, hey, what do you want? And I say, hey, I'm the neighborhood realtor. And you say, you know what, it's really not a good time. But at the same time, your chihuahua mauls me. Because that's what happens when I knock on doors. Everyone's dog runs past their owner and jumps on my dress pants. It's my favorite part of the business. And I say, oh my gosh, what's your dog's name? I love dogs. And they're like, Chewy. And I'm like, awesome, this is so great. Well, okay, well, I'm sorry I bothered you. I'll see you guys later. Good luck. And then I just put in my phone, dog's name Chewy, owner's busy, and I upload. And so now 6 months later when I go back, I pull that out. Dog's name Chewy, cool. And I knock on the door, and the owner says, can I help you? And I say, oh my gosh, Chewy, hi. And the owner's like, do I know you? And I'm like, well, kind of. I'm the real estate agent that handles the community. Last time I was here, you didn't have time, but I never forget a face that I like. So I remember Chewy's. And now they're like, oh my gosh. And that's it. Because it's about being more human more often. So the technology drives the human communication. So if you've been door knocking and you haven't been keeping track of what you're learning about people, why knock on their door? And if you own a team, by the way, and you have people door knocking, you have to have them doing this. Because those agents are going to leave your team. It's just what happens naturally in real estate. But when they leave, they take all of that intellectual property with them unless you have it all in your app. Because this way I can give, you're the new guy on my team, I can give you that app, and you can walk up and you can read it. And you can knock on and say, hey, you at Chewy, hey. It's so funny. My business partner Jason went to work at Taco Bell, so now I'm your realtor. And so, but he told me all about your dog. And the relationship picks up right where it left off because it's an infinity cycle. I love that app. I think it's great for door knocking. It's the only way that I would be door knocking. By the way, if you own a team, it also geo-maps everyone when they open the app. So you can watch little dots, so you know where all your people are at any given time. If you're into that kind of thing as a team owner, there's another great piece of technology. It's called the Uber conference call. The Uber conference call is the way that I do all my conference calls. Right now, usually when you conference call, you get an invite and it has a code, and you get on the thing and then you enter the code. Yes?
Yeah.
Uber is different. So if you own a team, I do a call with all of my agents every day at 3 o'clock. It was the number one thing that we did for culture. I did it for years. Every day at 3, all of their phones ring. Because the way that Uber works is you put in everyone's phone number, and then what time, and then all of their phone ring, and the minute they answer, we're all in one room together. So no one has to worry about putting in a code. And then from 3 to 3:15, all I would do is have a call about giving gratitude, pouring into my people, and helping them get ready for their evening listing presentations. That was like the key part of my day. The cool thing about it that the team never realized is as soon as they answer, it geo-maps now. So every day at 3 o'clock, at least for 15 minutes, I knew where all my people were. And I had my golf agents and my strip club agents. And but everybody was at 3 o'clock. That was the greatest thing we ever did on that team. I loved it. Sphere of influence, we beat this thing to death. Business to business, I gave you how I would do it. That was that attorney way to do it. I think that's the greatest way to build a business to business relationship. Client events. Client events, you guys, I'm not gonna give you a model for them other than to say that they're not standalone experiences. Meaning that a great client event is part of the infinity cycle. I'll draw it for you in a minute so that you can really understand what I mean. Social media. Social media right now, video is the hottest thing out there. And here are the rules on video. It can't be more than a minute and a half long, and it can't be about you, because no one cares, really. And the guy, I think, there's a guy doing it really well in LA right now, and he has replaced his whole farming by doing these videos. So twice a month, he goes to the farm areas that he's trying to cultivate, and he shoots a video there about the neighborhood, and then using Facebook's geo-mapping, it comes up organically in everyone that lives in that neighborhood's feed. A really smart way to be in business. Speaking of doing that, you know, if you go, who in here is using Lead Accelerator? Anybody? Okay, so if you go into your command, there's an applet called Lead Accelerator, right? So when you guys all look at me blankly like that, let's just get really clear on the concept, because it's possible that you don't know it from 30,000 feet, which is, you all know what this thing is, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, phone. So then what are these things? Yes. So here's the thing: when smartphones first came out, no one was using them. And by the way, there's only one age group that matters these days. It's young people and baby boomers. Those are the only ways you can make any money. And there's so many baby boomers that you need them. But baby boomers weren't using their smartphones. They just weren't. They were using their razors. They were using them. But then there was this app that came out that changed everything. It's the flashlight app. This is a true story. It changed the world. The flashlight app, this group of people, these baby boomers, they have this terrible affliction. They can't even read menus in restaurants. It's so sad to watch them. And so they came out with the flashlight app, and now they've all started using it to read menus. And as soon as they did that, they started to get it. And, oh my gosh, these things can help me. And once they figured it out, they went app crazy. Baby boomers today download more apps than any other age group. Probably because they forget what they're for the next day. That's just my guess, but that's the truth. But it took something to get them in, to get them comfortable. And so when you go into your phone, how many apps would you have if you didn't have the phone? I mean, think about your life right now. How app dependent is your life? Even those of you not on dating apps, or on a million others. Like, you have an app for everything. But if you didn't have the phone, how would you carry it? You wouldn't use them. You'd be out. My father doesn't have a smartphone. My father has a flip phone, and my mother carries an iPhone. And my father calls it a device. And so when they go to restaurants, he says, give me the device. And my mom carries him the phone, and he uses the flashlight. Why he doesn't just carry a flashlight, I don't know. But he's an example. And if you ask him, what apps do you use? Zero. Because he doesn't have the phone. You guys, that's all commanded. There's all this talk of what is it? It's just this. This is what it looks like, right? What do you think these things are? Applets, because of trademarking. We're close. And yes, and that's all it is. So when you say to me, I have a CRM, I'm like, awesome, so do I. It's called Contacts. And you say, well, I run Facebook ads. And I'm like, cool, I use Lead Accelerator. And you're like, well, I use Canva to make the signs. And I'm like, awesome, I actually use something called Design. And we could just keep going. And what Keller Williams is doing is we're going to continue to always make more and more applets. So that anytime anything cool comes out, we're going to make it. And sometimes it's going to work. And we're on a journey together, you guys. Come on. And what's going to happen here is it gets better every single day, because the culture with Keller Williams is that we turn our back on anything that we're doing. It's that we all turn forward and go along for the journey to make things improve. And anyone who knows Gary Keller knows he's going to get it right. I find it so funny when people, they leave KW or something, and then they talk about all the stuff they know. Here's what I know. Gary Keller may have taught them everything that they know, but he certainly didn't teach them everything that he knows. And as we move forward, all of us have been making our tech a heck of a lot smarter every single day. And after a while, the tech becomes so smart that little things like this one right here that does the monthly neighborhood nurture, that right now you might not think is so cool, gets really cool. So think of it like this. This right here is a picture of a monthly neighborhood nurture. Some of you have seen it. And it has this line here, and this is a picture of you. And then this is about you and about your team and about your puppy and whatever else you want it to be. You set that up. And then right here is a list of all of the different neighborhoods that you subscribe to Consumer to. Do half of you know what I'm talking about? Yes. Cool. The other half, this is what it looks like. Then these neighborhoods can be anywhere in the U.S. So if you have a friend in Hawaii, it might be this one. It can be any neighborhoods. You're no longer tied to IDX. Well, the rest of the industry has walls around them. You guys are above those walls. That's how you're able to be the realtor for everyone, everywhere. Then here, you see the map of the neighborhood that they click on, and it's a map. And then over here, you see the individual houses in that neighborhood as part of the IDX. Yes? Yes. They can click on this and drill in and see more info on the house. When you build this for somebody, you're actually building them their own web address, www. A ton of shit no one will ever remember. That's how it goes. But that's because we're literally building an individual website for each one of your consumers when you build it, and it's always there. We're watching some of our agents go in and pick out their top 20 or top 50 SOI people, and then go to GoDaddy and buy those web addresses with their names. So if Jason Abrams is your client, I'm an important one to you, maybe you go to GoDaddy and you buy jasonabramsneighborhoods.com. And then you call me and you say, hey, Jason, great to talk to you. I'm your realtor. Here's the deal. Gary Keller asked me to pilot this new program. It's about building individualized pages for each of our consumers to give them data they want. I built you one. I made you a website last night. I had a few minutes. It's called jasonabramsneighborhoods.com. Go check it out anytime you want. It's always going to be live. I subscribe you to the neighborhoods I think you might be interested in. By the way, there's a little button there at the top that says pick new neighborhoods. You can subscribe yourself to as many as you want. Would you play with it and check it out, and then in a couple weeks let me know what you think? I'll call you. Break script. If you did that for your top 20 people, how do you think they'd feel about you? For most of you, it would blow their mind that you knew how to build a web page. If I called my mother and said I built you a web page, she would be so proud of me. This is an easy way to connect one-to-one. And then anytime they go here, you go to your contacts and you see there's a section that says last logged in. That's the last time they were at the page. So you know when they're thinking about real estate. Think about that. If you had a way to know when your people are thinking about real estate, how much closer your people would you be? This is the backstage pass that allows you to do it. And this is what it does today. Tomorrow, we keep making more and more of these. These are called active cards. That's data that's happening in real time. These neighborhoods are growing every day. Who knows what these cards are going to be? Maybe this one is the local weather, this one is the local movies in the area, and this one is the local high school football scores, and this one, and there's going to be something they want. And maybe there's going to be a button right here that says add neighborhoods, and then this button says add everything else. And then they see a list of all the different things that they can add into their site so that they make it enjoyable for them. And the monthly neighborhood nurture automatically sends out once a month an invitation for them to click it and end up back here. And you can set it up so that happens twice a month. Friends, do you see where we're going? Mm-hmm. We're going to make each one of you Netflix. Meaning that you're going to go out and figure out who these people are, what their family, occupation, recreation, and dreams are. And then once you do it, we're going to tie it back to an experience that speaks directly to it. And then once they're at that experience, we're going to wake up every day and try to make that experience better. And this is one thing that we're working on. Imagine if we get it right. Like imagine the connectivity that you're going to have to your people if we get it right. We're getting closer every day. And so here's what I would ask you. If you go back to this, I don't know which one of these is the flashlight for you. Meaning that, I get this question all the time. How do I know when I should move to command? I don't know that you ever should. There might be third-party companies that you just love. All I'm suggesting is get curious and then pick one thing that helps. Who in here is going to make a flyer this year? Anybody? You're crazy if you don't do it in Designs. You got over 1,000 templates in there. Half of them made in New York at advertising firms and everything else, and they're linked to the MLS. So you don't have to upload your listing photos. They're already there. They're already there. How many of you want to send comps every month? Automated. That's the monthly neighborhood nurture. Get in and send it. I guess what I'm saying is, give the thing a shot and pick one piece in it that works and that you like, and start using it, and over time, you'll choose what you want to do. It's all about choice. Cool. Social media, video, everyone's using it. It's gotta be a minute and a half, can't talk about you. Here's the app I love, it's called Vlog Easy, V-L-O-G Easy. It's awesome. Vlog Easy, here's what we know. We know that videos that are edited get watched more than videos that aren't, by a ton. We've been labbing this at KW. We've had 50 agents using Vlog Easy now for 120 some odd days. We have another 50 agents that have been posting videos not using Vlog Easy. And the difference between how much it gets watched is off the charts. What Vlog Easy does is it uses a really simple AI component to edit the videos for you. So you get out your phone and you make a video and you say, hey, I'm at 123 Maple Street, it's an awesome house, it's coming on the market, let me show you inside. Okay, we're inside, check out this living room, what? Awesome, I want to show you the kitchen. Look at this kitchen, give me a break. There are cabinets, like countertops, can't get any better. Wait till you see the view to this, and this is how realtors make videos. You see these all the time. What Vlog Easy does is you film all that stuff, and then you push edit. And then it, over 1 minute, goes through and it takes out all of the walking, all of the stumbling, all of the stupidness. It just removes it and then edits it all together for you. So all of a sudden you have this fast moving video. And as you use it more often, it gets to know you and it gets better at editing. Meaning, HGTV trains all of their people to give as many cut points, they call it, throughout the filming of an episode. So we film about 40 hours for every half hour that you see on TV. And every episode is about 24 minutes. And so, learn how to do this. And so my thing was I would always say, I'm on the case. I said that all the time. So you'd be like, I don't like this kitchen. I'd be like, I'm on the case. And I just kept saying it. And so they knew that whenever I said that, it was an opportunity to cut. Well, so Vlog Easy got to know that I say that. And now it does the same thing. It waits for me to say, I'm on the case, and then it literally knows to cut. Some of you are going to be like, let's go check out another room. And you snap, it knows to cut. It's really smart. And more agents are using it, which means it's learning more and more about it. Turns out we're not all that unique anyway. It is a great way to do video. I absolutely love it. If you're an Android person, it doesn't work for you yet. But you should really wake up and join the rest of us anyway. So you can't worry about that. It will be coming up for Android. They're working on it right now. It's for iPhones only. The free version of that I don't think is very good. It limits your videos to 30 seconds. So if you're going to try it, I would pay for the service. The guy that owns it is named Chris. He's a really cool guy. You're going to see more of it at KW. The next thing I love with social media is social media with a mission. I think the best person for this is a guy named Anthony Knight. He's in Las Vegas. I've been telling his story for years because no one, frankly, has a better story. And I look. His story is this. Every Friday, he sends all of the agents on his team to every no-kill pet shelter in Vegas. And they go and they take pictures of all of the puppies and bunnies and kitties and ferrets and vermin that need to be adopted. And then they put that on Facebook, hashtag Foster Fridays. And then they volunteer there during the day, and then people come in to adopt these things. And then he takes another picture where they're handing the animals over and they get a picture with their new owner. And that happens every Friday all day long. And the tagline for his company, we don't just find homes for people.
Yeah.
See how manipulative that shit is? Like that's just the story that everyone's like, oh my God. Yes! This dude has 14,000 likes on his Facebook business page. I was on TV. For years, I never got more than 6,000 likes. This guy gives away ferrets. and it's because he literally hit home with something that people care about. That Facebook makes him more human more often than more people. And he takes it to the next level. He has a photo album that he puts all of the pictures in it. Every agent on his team gets a photo album. And so then they go on listing appointments, right? And they're like, hey, I'd like to list your house. And the person's like, well, I can list with Redfin for a point. And he goes, yeah, but if I did that, all these puppies would have died. People are like, oh my gosh. And he's like, do you hate puppies? And they're like, no, I'll pay. And it's amazing because he has this universal truth, which is when you give good people a good opportunity, they do a good thing. And so along with hiring him, you get to help all these animals. And you get a visual representation of it by looking at these pictures. And so before you even help them, you feel like you're helping them because you're looking through. And now you sign, and now we're partners, and you're going to help all these animals. And people love it. Do you love your town?
Yes.
How would I know that? Well, because I'm here right now, and I've met all of you. What's the visual representation that you give a shit?
We eliminated all Wall Street.
Yeah.
Okay, let's switch the question, because maybe it's not fair since I've been talking. When you go on a listing presentation, does the consumer know how much you love their town? If the answer is no, then you're missing a massive part of human value. Zillow is never going to care about this town, even if it is the capital of a state that charges too much to live here.
Thank you.
They don't care. But there's no evidence you do either. And so if you wanted to change the conversion rates, if you own a team right now, there's only a few ways to do it. Number one, you can practice ships and dialogues. Number two, you can try to get better appointments set. Or number three, you could simply give your people the visual representation of what you stand for that helps the community. So I don't care what you choose. This guy chose pets. There's an agent in Atlanta, he does Hope Through Soap. They literally go to homeless communities and they give people a shower and a haircut. And he shows before and after pictures, like a house flip, and people love it and they want to help. I know a guy who does this with children in homeless shelters. His thing, he throws birthday parties for every kid who has their birthday when they're in a shelter in his town. And it is an awesome thing that he does. And these are all awesome things. And if you're going to do something awesome, you've got to have people know about it. And that's what social media started as. It started as a way to show off the good we were doing. I know they tell a different story, but the original aspect of it was for smart kids to brag about how smart they were. And the first things they were sharing were math problems because Zuckerberg's such a cool guy. That's a true story. That's what they were sharing. It's turned into the highlight reels of our lives, right? I mean, no one's as happy as they are on social media. What if you were showing all the good you were doing in the community and then in the visual representation to go through it on your listing appointment? It would change the world. Imagine if everyone on your ALC or everyone in your office had a photo album like that they could take with them. Everyone would think differently about your office. The next thing that I really love with social media after you tie it to an event like that is now taking a step back and asking, here's the question, write down your guess. How many friends do you have on Facebook? Write down your number. I know they're not real. I mean Facebook friends. Now, right under it, how many of those friends live in your MLS area? Now, for most of you, the vast majority of them don't. Yes? Raise your hand if there's more friends than friends that live in your area. You're friends with people on Facebook that don't live here. That's just what happens. So my question to you is this. If you've been thinking that you're the local real estate agent in this town, then Facebook is pretty useless to you. Because most of the people don't live in this town, right?
Right.
Right. But so what are they good for, those people? Referral fees, yes, it's the only thing they're good for. So, fantastic, I agree with you completely. Why do you think, and let's get real existential, the first thing that we built was the referral network? What do you think? Everyone always says that. Why'd you build referrals first? Well, because we have the largest real estate ecosystem the world has ever known. Like other companies can talk about whatever they want, but that's ours. We're the largest. We actually write the models and systems that the entire real estate world uses. Everybody reads the Red Book, no matter what company they're at. The home of models and systems and tech, that's it. It's just who we are. It is what it is. But referrals are the lifeblood of having an ecosystem this way. So here's the model that I love on Facebook to do it. You go onto Facebook. This is called the direct message system. It's my favorite one for social media. I think it's the no-brainer. It works to, think about the people in your office right now who aren't going to make it. Don't look at me, or them. Like you all know in your own mind, and by the way, you top agents, you're the best. You pick out who's going to not make it the minute you see it. And we just do that. We judge books by its cover, which, by the way, is the best way to judge a book. If it wasn't, then when you go to bookstores, they'd all be open. They're not. Judging a book by its cover is good. So what if you had a system so that everyone who was never going to make it in real estate can make $100,000 next year? Do you think you'd be rich? Would they want to work on your team? Cool. Yes. This guy came up with the answer. That was his focusing question. what can I do such that the people in my office who are never going to make it because they can never go on a listing appointment and give anyone confidence can make $100 grand? Here's what they do. They have 60 minutes, or I'm sorry, they have 3 hours to have 60 two-way direct message conversations. This is the greatest use of time. A two-way direct message is I send you a direct message on your Facebook and then you read it and stop your life and write me back. Cool?
Cool.
If you had 60 of those in 3 hours, it would be such a better use of your time than an open house. When was the last time you met 60 people?
Sure.
This is a fantastic way to do it, and yet you never have to make a cold call. You never have to talk to them. All you have to do is get them into a direct message conversation. For those of you that have millennials running around your office, this is an amazing system for them. The millennials love this system. We do this with millennials in our office. Here's how it works. So they open up their direct message, and then we ring a bell. And they start, and that's for 3 hours. And then they open up all of the direct message conversations that they're having. And they start it by sending a message. And then as people write back, they get to count that. And before you know it, they have 60 of them. And when they have 60, they ring a bell, and then we come over, and if they have 60, we give them a piece of chocolate. The millennials love this. It's a fantastic system.
That'd be fun.
It's a fantastic system because they don't have to get out of their comfort zone. And they're connecting with people all over the world, again, using Facebook. And it doesn't matter what you write. Don't get caught up with what the message is. It's not about a message. It's about making sure the person on the other end likes you more. Most of our millennials don't even use words. They're using memes. Like honestly, as long as if you send someone something that makes them laugh and smile, they like you more. They all know you're a realtor. And if they don't, then your profile sucks anyway. Make sure that your little picture is something that has to do with real estate. When it pops up and they see it, even if it just says the word realtor, and they're going to think that's funny. And if you did this long enough, you'd be in emotional proximity with people. And emotional proximity is the key to the whole thing. And all of you guys have seen this drawing illustrating emotional proximity. Have you all seen this? That's disappointing. So,
Yes.
cover this really, really quick. This is when they buy a house, right? And you make your 10 grand, and this is the next day, because no one buys a home the day after they buy a home. And then every day after that, it goes up in value, and then this is the next time they buy, and these points are separated by 3 to 7 years, but they don't just move once, they move 2 or 3 times during the course of their life. Okay, you know the drawing. Here's the thing. They're going to make a decision on who they use for real estate right then. That's when they decide who wins. But if you haven't been talking to them or in emotional proximity at all during this point, why would they choose you? Think about it in terms of a personal relationship. Think about your spouse right now or your significant other. And ask yourself, if the only time that you tuned into that person is when you were hoping to have a romantic interlude, do you think they'd come fewer and further between? Amazing that you're not all saying yes to that.
Right, yeah, yes.
I don't know what kind of relationships you guys are in, but I gotta get some of that.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. If you only cared about your spouse when you wanted to, whatever, then yes, you're not in emotional proximity, and it's gonna get harder and harder to sell them on it. It might work once, maybe twice, 8 times, enough to get engaged, maybe a marriage. At some point, though, they're gonna catch on. And that's what happens to the consumer as well. And so we have to get into emotional proximity with them so that we're there when they make that decision. These are all just different tactics and ways of doing it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's really, really important. This is the amazing way to stay in emotional proximity the entire time. If you don't want to talk to people on the phone, don't. You don't want to knock on doors, don't. You don't want to call expireds and cancels, don't. What if your goal is to have 5,000 friends on Facebook? That's when they stop allowing you to make friends. I'm at that number now, it's disappointing. You have 5,000 friends, and I am going to make sure that I am in relationship with them by having a direct message conversation at least once a month with all 5,000. Do you know how big that real estate business would be? You'd have to build a team around you to do that. I've seen millennials, I swear, in this dude's office, they have like 4 screens, and they don't do 3 hours. This is what they do from 9 to 5. And they've made the decision that I don't want to work on weekends, I don't want to show houses in the evening, I don't want to do the realtor stuff, and I never want to do an open house. So they literally start at 9 o'clock and they go to 5 o'clock. And their sole goal in life is to get 8 to 10 referral checks a month. I'll tell you what, that's not a bad model. 8 to 10 referral checks a month at an average of about $3,000 for a referral check. You do the math on that. I can't, I'm a realtor. I bet you it's a big number.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. They have office hours, and no one's calling them after hours. It's a different way to think about it. I love that system. Is there anyone that's going to try that out of curiosity? I legitimately think you could do nothing but that. And if you owned a team and you gave your people the ability and the motivation to do that once a week and you tracked it for the next 6 months, I promise you'd see more incoming referral checks. Here's the key to it. Send as many memes as you want. Make jokes about the president all day. But at some point, you have to actually talk about Ford. Meaning, as long as they like you, you're good. But after a while, you've got to talk to your family, occupation, recreation, or dreams. It's the only scripts you need, but you need those scripts. And then as soon as there's an opening, you're like, oh, what's your real estate plan? And they're like, I don't know, I got to talk to someone. You're like, I got someone for you. And then just use the referral system to filter and then send those referrals. Coming really soon, by the way, we're going to pump all that into opportunities so that when you send a referral, you can actually track the transaction all the way through close. That way, it won't be a black hole of hoping and guessing like it is at every other real estate company. You're going to see it in every single phase and stage. Cool. Any questions on social media? Open houses? I don't know. Anyone? Not since the helium balloon has there been any advancement.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what else to say. That's it. I can tell you we're working on an open house applet. It's cool, but that's all I can say. Cool. I honestly, the open house guy is Chris Suarez. Like, why you would try to come up with a better way to do an open house than Chris, I don't know. And why you wouldn't do everything Chris does at an open house, I don't know. The only reason you could say no to me is because it's ego-based, and I wouldn't understand it. I will say, here's the one thing that Chris Suarez taught me about open houses. I thought, he said to me, Jason, why do you do open houses? And I said, it's my greatest source of now business. Everyone that's there is looking for a house. And he said, that's so cute, you think that. And he says, that's inaccurate. And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, there's all kinds of, if you don't know Chris is a researcher. He's a student of the game. He studies everything. He's smart. And he found all this data. The truth of it is that there's a lot of evidence that open houses are not at the end of people's journeys, they're at the beginning. Meaning that they're part of the infinity loop. You know that biblical saying, don't covet thy neighbor's wife? Why is that a rule? That's kind of weird. Why might it be a rule?
Yeah.
It might be a rule because that's the first thing. You covet the things that you see every day. And so if you see your neighbor's wife every day, it's a good rule not to start coveting it because we'd have all of these wars going on in neighborhoods. So the idea is people start to really want the things that they see all the time. This is the whole general idea around marketing and TV commercials. And the more you see it, the more you want it. And then the more you see it, the more it thinks that it's reasonable to have it. Which is why we have idiots like me who wear Rolexes. That tells the same time as a $5 watch, but over time, this seemed like a reasonable thing. It's not, but it seems that way. And so we end up in these cycles. And he says that open houses are part of the infinity cycle because people go to open houses within their neighborhoods, then they go to open houses within the neighborhoods they want to live. And open houses isn't an activity you do when you're looking for a house. For most of the populace, it's an activity you do all the time. And I think he's right. And if that's the case, now think about the experience you're giving at an open house. The only reason to have it would be to meet somebody and then get them into your data bank and then start sending them the monthly neighborhood nurture and then stay in relationship with them over time. So maybe the only thing to track at an open house is how many people did I add into my system every time I do one. And maybe the goal should be 3 or 4 or 5. If you owned a team and every time there was an open house that was done, you knew your people were going to add 5 people into your system and there was going to be long-term follow-up, let me just tell you that would be 260 people per year per person on your team. Every one of those you could multiply by $64 because someone else would have paid that on Zillow. Remember, your data banks are worth $96,000. What I'm saying is every time you add someone else into it, that's like putting $64 in your pocket. Maybe that's how you track open houses. That's what I think Chris's genius is. That's what I love about his concept. I don't care how you do it, but get real clear. The only reason to do it is to add people in. And the only reason to add people in is to follow up with them over time. The only reason to do that is so you're there when they have a life event to buy or sell a house. So, who in here is not going to follow up? Be honest. Who is just not going to follow up over time? Why are you lying? You know who's not going to do it. At least someone just say, you know what, I don't want to follow up with strangers over time. I'm not going to do that. No one? Everyone's going to. You're not going to. Cool. Thank you. I can live with that. That's an honest answer. So if you're not going to follow up with strangers long-term over time, switch your strategy. And say, I'm only going to be in deep relationship with the people that are in my phone, and I'm going to fiercely guard who gets in. And so I'm not going to grade every day by how many strangers I add. I'm going to grade it by how many people I'm closer to. That would be an amazing strategy. Everyone else who's playing the game, which is pretending you're following up, but not, to impress who? Like, for what? Like, there's no, like, paycheck in this job. We're in, like, one of the only industries where we actually pay the people that interviewed us. You know how weird that is? Can you imagine if you walked into any other job and they were like, do you think you want to work here? And you were like, yeah, I really would. And they're like, great, write me a check. What? That's the residential real estate industry. So you're not doing it to impress anybody else. So you have to find a way to do it that feels good to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's really important, you guys. We're coming down to it now. Farming? Who's farming? Why aren't the rest of you? Why aren't you farming? I can yell out your answer. It costs too much. Why else?
Lazy.
Lazy. Best answer ever. Bandwidth. I hear that similar ways. Here's the deal. Farming is an absolute certainty in the mathematical equation. Who in here has a retirement account? Anybody? Okay. How many of you get statements every month about it? Keep your hand up. How many of you read them cover to cover? 2 of you. Cool. So let me just make sure I get this, because maybe it's me and I'm screwed up. You know how hard it is to make money, right? Like, it's a pain in the ass. We're here right now to try to get better at it. It's hard to make money. All of the activities are hard, right? And yet you send a portion of it to this retirement account, and then you get a document about your money every month, and you don't read it. What, do you just not care about those dollars anymore? Or it wasn't that hard to make it, so your money to burn? Or, like, help me understand it. Because this is exactly what happened to me. I got this call one day from Gary Kelly, and he said, hey, I want to get to know you better. And I was like, great. At this time, he was coaching me directly. And he said, let's do this. Why don't you bring all of your finances here, and I'll bring all of mine, and that way we can just get to know each other. And I was like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Fine. You're probably busy. And he was like, no, I want to do it. Bring all of your statements and all of your pages. And he's working with you, so this call might be coming for you one day, because this is what happened. And you're like, we don't have to. Anyway, I get that. And he's like, okay, well, here's mine. And he like slams it down, and it's like a phone book of data. And he's like, where's yours? And I'm like, it's here. It's like this little manila folder. And he's like, okay, well, just start writing on the board. Just help me. And I was like, I don't want to do it. And he's like, just go ahead. And I'm like, I got a joint checking account with there's like $119 in it. And I got Capital One card. I owe $500 there. And it was just the worst experience ever. And then he took my retirement account, which for a lot of us has our big number in it. And he goes, this is great. I see what you're doing here. 4X, huh? I didn't know what that meant. And I was like, damn right.
Yeah, right.
And he's like, 4X, this is awesome. It seems like you have a really big exposure to, I don't even know, is this German currency? And I was like, ask me something else, I dare you. He was like, okay, well then forget that. It only makes it 9% of your portfolio. It probably doesn't matter. What about this? You have all of these in mid-cap mutual funds, but large cap companies do better when a Democrat is in office. And right now, a Democrat is in office. So what's your thinking there? Kind of going against the market, huh? And I was like, I don't know what you're saying. And it was the worst meeting ever. It was so bad. And then he said to me, let me ask you this. How many appointments do you have to go on before you get a listing? And I knew the answer. I said, I'm about 70%. If I go to your house, I'm getting paid 70% of the time. He's like, cool. And how many people do you have in your database? And I told him. And he goes, and how many units are you going to do? And I knew every number about my business cold, because I'm an expert in this business. This is what I do. And he said, so why aren't you investing all your money here as opposed to sending it to these people and not even knowing what your money's in? And I had this epiphany in this moment, and I haven't put another dollar into a retirement account since. And people say to me, oh, I do it for the tax break. And I'm like, I just make more money. So I don't really worry about that. Think about this for a second. If you're sending your money, your safe money, to investments that you're not even willing to read about, what are you doing? This is the argument for farming. This is the safest place to put your money. Because if you farm an area over a long enough period of time, you're going to win. It's math, cuz math. Kenny Klaus is the best farmer there is. He's a KW agent. Kenny Klaus is a killer. He is the best farmer. He is the Suarez is to open house, as Kenny Klaus is to farming. And he has one model that I love, that I think everyone should do. And I'm going to give it to you, and then I think we'll close on time. Here's that model. Number one, he sends a neighborhood newsletter. This one kills it if you do it. But so many people hear it and then don't do it. This is such a good model. The neighborhood newsletter is 4 pages long. That's it. It's only 4 pages. The first page is info about the farm area. Easy, right? You can look that up. At the bottom is a banner ad for his real estate company. The second page, and this is where it gets good, is an interview that he does with a mom and pop business within the farm. And this is so smart because Kenny knows that if he sits down face to face with 12 small business owners over the course of the year, he's going to start to get referrals from them. That's just what happens because you're likable, most of you. And the questions in the interview are like, why did you choose this farm area? What do you love about our community? And here's the deal he makes with that. He says, I'll send out this newsletter and put your info in it, but you have to agree to allow me to leave my newsletter in your shop once a month for the next 12 months. And that's how he stays physically omnipresent in all of these places. You see this dude at the cleaners and at the salad bar place and at the handyman store and at the ice cream parlor. His newsletter is everywhere in this community and people see it all the time. It's really smart. It's physical, emotional proximity. The second page, again, that's the interview. The third page is another interview. It's with a high school athlete who lives within the farm area. And this is so smart. He only does it with juniors and seniors. And the problem he's solving for is in most of the country, it's really hard to get into college right now. Not like here, you just pay. But like in most of the country, it's really difficult. Like, you have to actually like go through the process. You can't just say you're on the rowing team, right? It's different. Yeah. And so he knows that these kids have this challenge. And so he gives them these interviews such that they can put that in their portfolio of stuff because it's cool. And so he asks, like in his, he uses girls volleyball. And I'll say to the girls volleyball coach, hey, who on the team is awesome this month? And they'll say, Tina. And he'll say, can I have Tina's parents' number? And then he calls Tina's parents and he says, hey, I was told by the coach that your daughter is awesome. That Tina she's like a 4.2 student. She's got a great overhead smash. Everybody loves her. But I know that without amazing parents, there'd be no amazing Tina. And they're like, you're damn right. And he's like, I'd love to come over and interview you guys and Tina for our newsletter that we do for the neighborhood. You've probably seen it in your mailbox on how to raise such an amazing daughter. And they love that. And they're like, great, come over. And then he goes and he sits at their kitchen table, and for an hour on some Wednesday night, he asks them about their daughter. And they bring out pictures, and they talk about her future. And how do you think they feel about him during this? Anyone that gets to brag about their kid feels good about the person they're bragging to. They love him for it. Now, he only does it with juniors and seniors. What do you think the odds are these parents become empty nesters over the next 2 years? It's about half. 50% of them become empty nesters over the next 2 years. So what he's doing is every single month, he's picking out and isolating who's going to be the next empty nester 2 years from now. He's interviewing for the listings 2 years before they happen. It's so smart. And the last page is a sticky page. And a sticky page is anything that allows them to not throw it away. It's a Sudoku puzzle, it's a crossword puzzle, it's a professional sports team. I don't know if you have those here, but it's one of those.
Nice.
That plays so well in New England, they love that joke. Because Patriot fans are asses. Anyway, people love that, right? So good. Now, there's even people in this room that get upset. I'm a Patriot fan. I got you. Tom Brady, University of Michigan. I feel it. It's not easy to be winners. Okay, so everybody feels that way. And so now you have, before you ever, so those of you that said it's too expensive, let's just be really clear what we did. We're now in 12 small businesses. We've added 12 small business owners to our sphere of influence, and we've interviewed 12 families, of which half are soon to be empty nesters. We haven't spent any money yet. So don't tell me it's too expensive. Then, before they send it out, he sends a slide dial to everyone in the neighborhood. And the slide dial says, hey, the newsletter is going to be in your box in the next 2 days. Everybody loves it. Wait till you check out page 2, the interview with Brad Salad Bar. He's amazing, crazy about croutons. You're going to love this guy. And then he sends it. And then he does another slide dial 3 days later. He bookends it with slide dials. And that slide dial says, hey, I hope you enjoyed the newsletter. How awesome is it that Tina is in our community? So he instantly adds himself into everywhere he's farming. By the way, I'm going to be in our neighborhood this weekend. I'm going to be delivering CMAs to people. Some of your neighbors wanted to know what their house is worth. If you want one, call back this number and just leave a message with your address, and I'll leave one on your porch. I'll see you next month in your mailbox. It's so manipulative and it's so good. And what he's doing is he's constantly asking people to opt in. And so the people that call and get the CMA, they're opting in. And maybe they don't do it the first time. Maybe they don't do it the second time. But if you get that message and you can set your watch by it, do you think it's weird 2 years from now when you're actually ready to sell your house that you would call him to get the CMA? It feels totally natural and organic at that point. They're in a relationship. All of this, everything we've said today is about getting in relationship. We're good. We're winding it down. That's all of it. So, now, whoa. Do you think about this differently now? Yeah. Are you starting? Okay, so this is what everybody wants success to look like. Yes? This is what we know top business success looks like. This is what it really feels like. Right? Everyone in the world is living this. It's not just you. It's all of them. It's everybody. So all of these drawings fit in this one in some form or another. That's it. It's a really simplistic view. Everything naturally in life wants to become complicated, but all success is found in simplicity. Period. So when you break out all of the shit, and all of the classes, and all of the accreditations, and all of the anxiety, and all of the fear, and all of the models, and all of the systems, and the people that have operation manuals that are 800 pages long, which is so dumb. But anyway, you break all of that out. What you're left with is some simple truths. No one is going to do business with you if they don't like you. No one is going to like you if they don't think you care about them. The more people that you care about, the more money you're going to make. Everything else that we teach is in support of those ideas. That's called culture. So the culture of your market center, the culture of our company, it isn't the words on the wall in purple. That's not culture. Culture is each individual agent's perspective on how the company relates to them and how they relate to the company. So if I talk and wax poetically about culture, but you can't pay your bills next month, you don't like my culture and you don't feel it. And if your customers think that your culture is show up when it's time to get paid, they're not going to like that either. How do you feel about the IRS? That's the relationship, isn't it? When do they show up in your life at any other time during the year and make you like it? Does it ever feel better? Do they ever do anything that adds to it? Heck, how do you feel about government in general? You don't have to answer that. I know how you feel about it. But that's the thing. My concern, my fear, is that the only reason anybody can be disrupted in our space is because our customers are emotionally tied to us. And the only way to win is to take your people back. I'm closing on this thought. If you take nothing else away from this course, take your people back. Start with your sphere of influence, friend, family, neighbor, or relative. Move on to past clients because they're your greatest connection to your business right now. And then everybody else. And you new agents in the room, there's some of you here, if you're starting with strangers, wake up. And stop looking for strangers when your future customer has been sitting right next to you the entire time. Everybody that you already know is on the infinity cycle. That's it. Any questions on any of this? Yeah, that triangle is an interesting one, right? The Gubernick triangle? I own a coaching company called Metrics with Brian Gubernick and Brett Tannen, and they draw this constantly. And the idea is that the vast majority of the world asks why. Why did you do this? Why am I going to do this? Then they go to how. How do I do it? Then they go to what am I going to do? You could skip all of this, really, and if you spend more time asking this, it would be better. I'll give you a great example. I spent very little time figuring out why I want my house cleaned. I kind of like it. How? No idea. It's not my strong suit. What would I do to make it clean? I simply found a maid. I go right to who on that. I do that with pretty much everything. I ask myself, do I have the right system? Do I have the right tech? Do I have the right who? For me, the right system for cleaning was not doing it. The right tech was a vacuum. And who was the maid? That's in really simple terms. That's how I think about it. Anybody else?